Welcome back again, my friends, to this episode of Occult Empire on Antimatter Broadcasting, which is, of course, in coordination with Antimatter Zone Network. And I'm your host again tonight, Bob from Cincinnati, and what a pleasure it is to be back here on Occult Empire. This is Occult Empire episode 12, and what a great resonating number that is, because tonight we have back that faithful steward of alchemy, our friend Mark Passio of whatonearthishappening.com. And I'm not going to go into the bio of Mark Passio because the people who listen to this show are well acquainted with Mark Passio and his work. But for those who are not, you can always go to whatonearthishappening.com, and that's the website of Mark Passio, and you'll be able to find all of his material there. Mark always suggests go to the podcast number 1 on his podcast page and start from there. I believe that was the spring of 2010 Mark started, and move forward in his podcasts. And it like Passio says, it is a tapestry. It builds one episode upon the other. So don't start at number 45 and move forward. I think there's about 153 episodes now. It's amazing. This guy is prodigious. I mean, he just keeps putting out work. And I'll be honest, the people who interface with Mark, and I in my small way, the few times I get to interface with Passio professionally, we are blown away by the amount of the content on this guy's website. It grows, and it never ends. And there's such depth of wisdom. Not just knowledge. I mean, anybody can put up a website with knowledge. I mean, even a slow person like me can put up a website, which, ironically enough, I do have a website now. So if anybody wants to check it out, my website is occultempire.com. And it's just a skeleton site right now, but please take a moment to check it out. I'm sure by the time you hear this, there'll be a lot more content, and I'm putting up more content as we speak, and I'm going to write my first article. So I hope you like it, and let me know what you think about the articles that I place on occultempire.com. I'm not going to burn up too much time chit-chatting because, like I said, everybody the people who listen to this show, Occult Empire, you are advanced students of the occult and of the work of Mark Passio. So I'm not going to beat that. We're not going to ask Mark about his history in the dark occult. That's been covered ad nauseum. No offense, Passio, but you would think that the people that interview you, they haven't caught your bio at some stage, but they obviously haven't. But we know all about the bio. What we want to know, Mark, is about how spiritually we can advance, because we know that you hold some of the keys of knowledge. Your knowledge is mammoth, and we're thankful that you're sharing your occulted information with us, especially here at Occult Empire. I want to make people aware that Mark will be speaking in St. Louis, Missouri on Saturday, May 31st, 2014, at the Arden Mead Center. And that's located at 17 Selma Avenue, St. Louis, Missouri, 63119. He will be presenting a one-time only all-day seminar. And this seminar is called Streetwise Spirituality. What does it truly mean to be awake? And, wow, I wish I could be there. I was at the last one in Asheville, North Carolina, and I burned up all my resources. I don't think Mrs. Bob from Cincinnati is going to let me pay for travel and lodging again to go see Passio. It hurts my heart somewhere that I'm not able to go. But I burned up all my resources. And, yes, my wife came out with me, and she met Mark, and she was happy to friend Mark on Facebook. So I myself don't have a Facebook page, but my wife does, and she's definitely one of Passio's friends now. But I apologize, I kind of digressed, and thanks for entertaining me, friends. But the doors open on Saturday, May 31st, 2014, in St. Louis for Mark's one-day speaking engagement. If you're going to be there, you got to be there early. Doors open at 9 a.m. Morning session starts at 9:30, lunch break at 12:30, afternoon session at 2. You get an hour and a half for lunch. Question and answer session at 5. Advance tickets are $20 donation. You may call 314 488-4454 or email Ray Mumme, that's RAYMUMME @gmail.com to purchase tickets. At the door, it's a $5 premium on top of that, so $25 ahead to get in. That's cheap for an all-day seminar with Mark Passio. So what a treat that'll be. But tonight, ladies and gentlemen, the topic for the show is Mark Passio on Alchemy 2, or Mark Passio Alchemy 2. This is the second part, entitled The True Great Work, What It Really Is and How to Do It. A lot of people are confused about the great work, and there are a couple of approaches to it. Last night we heard Bill Cooper's approach, which is kind of a dark take, but as Mark has shared with us, there is a dark occult, but there's a light occult as well, and every time they use a tool against us, that tool can be used for good. And so let's find out, tonight what the great work is about. So without further ado, what I'm going to do is open the door to Occult Empire, and we're going to draw Passio on for Mark Passio Alchemy 2, The True Great Work. A call from the ramparts announce a dark-clad rider, and he dismounts a weary steed. And as the oaken door opens, we know who it is immediately. The friendly face of Mark Passio once again enters the chamber of Occult Empire. Mark Passio, welcome back, good sir.
Bob, it's always a pleasure to be here on Occult Empire. Thanks for having me back.
Sir, you are welcome anytime in the Temple of Occult Empire. We, of course, here in the temple quietly step back and allow you to approach the dais, sir. So please step up, and sir, this is your home. Please speak, Mark.
Thanks so much, Bob. Well, tonight the topic that we chose for discussion was the true great work. And you hear so much in alternative media today about the dark great work, as I like to call it. People, in many cases, when they encounter the world of the occult and realize how occult knowledge has been being used in the last millennia, they usually take on a unidimensional perspective regarding the occult. And this is actually unfortunate. And they think that it's all bad, it's all evil, it's all negative, it's all used for control. And while occult knowledge has been being used in that capacity for countless years and is still being used that way today, that is not the be-all and end-all or the totality of what occult knowledge is all about. So while there is a great work that is indeed very dark, and it is about controlling and enslaving humanity and using the knowledge of the occult, which is the knowledge of the human psyche, combined with the knowledge of the laws of nature, using that knowledge as a power differential over those who are kept ignorant of it, that is certainly one usage of occult knowledge, and it has been called the great work by these sorcerers of consciousness, as I like to call them, the mind controllers, the powers that be. They call what they are doing the great work. I feel that it is a complete misnomer. It is a bastardization of the term. There is a true great work, and then there is what they are doing and calling their great work. So you could say there are two different great works. And I was thinking about a place to start in describing this distinction, and I could think of really no other place than some symbolism. Because if we look at that very famous reverse of the Great Seal of the United States, which is depicted on the left-hand side of the back of the $1, the U.S. $1 bill. Of course, I'm referring to the pyramid with the all-seeing eye as the capstone, and then the Latin inscriptions above and below it. If we just simply break down that seal for a moment or two, or maybe a little longer than that, I could explain the distinction between these two forms of the great work, and perhaps it will become clearer in some people's mind. Then we can get into describing what is involved in the true great work, or what you might call the light great work. Okay, so let's break down this symbol momentarily. At the top of the symbol in Latin inscription, you have the phrase annuit coeptis. Now, right here, we have the term work in the form of the Latin noun coeptis. Okay? Annuit is a verb in Latin, and it's in the third person singular format. Okay? So annuit means, and it's present tense, it means he, she, or it looks favorably upon, or simply favors something. It is giving its consent, it is giving its nod, it is giving its approval, okay? And it's he, she, or it. So it's not making a clear distinction in gender. It is just saying this thing looks favorably upon or favors, and then the noun is saying what does it favor or what does it look favorably upon, and that noun is then coeptis. In Latin, that means a project, an undertaking, something that you are actively doing, and it is ongoing. So you could simply translate that as a work of some kind, a task of some kind, a labor of some kind that is actively ongoing. It is something that is still being done. Okay, so we put them together, and we could translate annuit coeptis as he, she, or it favors our work, our project, or our undertaking. Okay? Now, the second Latin inscription underneath, much has been debated about this, I think needlessly, because if we only simply go to the source Latin, it takes on a very clear meaning. People who don't have any kind of a depth of field in studying Latin, or some very simple distinctions in the Latin language, want to insist that this phrase means something that it doesn't. And hopefully I have put that to bed a while back, and if not, I'll try to do it again here tonight. The phrase novus ordo seclorum does indeed mean new world order, or you could translate it as new secular order, but it, however, definitely does not mean new order of the ages. This has been a very incorrect and persistently incorrect translation over the years by people who want to insist that the word seclorum is instead the word cyclorum in Latin, when in fact there is no A in between the S and the E in that word as depicted on the reverse of the Great Seal. So the word seclorum is actually a truncation. It's a genitive case truncation of the Latin seculus. The word seculus means world or universe. So novus, there is no doubt or contention of what it means. It means new. Ordo means order. And then seclorum is the genitive of the word world. So it means of the world, literally. So the possessive case, of the world. Novus ordo seclorum, hence, means new order of the world, or new world order. Very, very, very clearly translated. And I think they're, the people who insist that seclorum is instead the Latin term cyculus, okay, a truncation from cyculus, cyculorum or cyclorum, okay, would be how it would be said, and it would be spelled Saeclorum if we were truncating it. That would mean of the ages, because cyculus, not seculus, but cyculus in Latin does indeed mean an age or a period of time. So that distinction clearly being made, we definitely know the translation of these Latin inscriptions now. It means he, she, or it favors our work, the new world order. Definitely what that means if it is properly translated, which I have just done, definitively just done. So then we have a pyramidal structure that is partially completed. It is, you could say, almost completely finished being built. And then there is a small capstone of light emanating from the top of the pyramid, inside of which, seemingly in another world or dimension, there is an eye that is looking into the scene. Now, what this pyramid and whole symbol represents is both great works that I have just previously described briefly. Okay? It is the great work of the dark occultists, the controlling class who consider themselves the masters or the ruling class of the world, okay, and are doing the dark great work. It is also the true great work of the truly illuminated people living on the earth who are trying to raise the consciousness of others on the earth such that we can get out of the system of slavery that has been built up and is almost completed here on the earth. Okay? So now that begs to question and calls into mind, what indeed does this pyramid and this capstone of light with the all-seeing eye in it represent? And people often have this completely reversed, or they have it as very unidimensional and one-sided. And I think if we clearly outline this, people can see how there are two sides to the occult, and that shows through in how there are multi-dimensional or often two-sided or more multifaceted ways of decoding symbolism and not just seeing it in a unidimensional perspective. This is, of course, for any serious student of the occult, very important to understand that symbols do not represent one thing in many cases. They are complex, and they can mean many different things to many different people, many different adherents of different systems, but also a sigil like this, which is what indeed this is, a combination, a complex combination of symbols used to tell a story, an allegorical story. It can often, one symbol can often literally mean two different things at the same time, okay? And it's a beautiful, this is actually a beautiful symbol. I call this symbol, instead of calling it the reverse of the Great Seal of the United States, some people have termed it the symbol or the seal of all forms of masonry, because it describes both dark masonry and light masonry. Again, dark builders or light builders, a dark project being built or a light project being built, a positive project being built. I like to call it the symbol that describes the world in transition. That's kind of how I personally see this symbol. And it is a symbol of masonry. It is a symbol of alchemy. It is also a symbol of positive occultism and a symbol of dark occultism simultaneously. So this all hinges on what the pyramid and the capstone represents. So let's begin to break that down. The pyramid itself, the stone blocks of the pyramid that are partially and you could say almost completely finished being erected into a completed pyramid, represent slavery, ignorance, and darkness in our world. That's what those stones represent. The makers of the seal deliberately chose brick, stone, okay? Something that is heavy, something that is weighty, something that weighs things down, something that erects barriers between things, that builds walls, that divides things when you build it up between different people or different communities, okay? We build walls with bricks. Bricks are barriers to something. They are used to create barriers, to erect barriers, okay? They are the thing that you would probably use if you wanted to describe what is the exact opposite of lightness. There is no better symbol to use than a hardened brick. It's the exact opposite of lightness in every way, okay? It is completely opaque. It's not even it's certainly not transparent. It's not even translucent. You can't see through it, okay? It is difficult to see through, okay, as is darkness and slavery and ignorance. It's difficult to transcend. So these are the barriers. You could look at these things as the barriers to that light. That light is the light of knowledge. It is the light of the creator of the universe, which is what the eye represents, that is seeing everything that takes place in this world from a higher dimension or perspective, if you will. All right? It is not something that is technically not of the world of matter. Okay? It may perfuse the world of matter, and it may give rise to the world of matter, but you couldn't identify it as anything that is of the world of matter, that form of higher consciousness. Hence, it is looking into the scene from a higher dimensional perspective. And it is shining its light into the world. But the light is not the bulk of the scene, you'll note. Okay? It is a small portion of the scene. It is only that small part of the pyramid that is illuminated at the very top. The rest of it is already calcified and hardened into brick. This represents that the light of the Creator is only contained in a very small portion, unfortunately, of humanity. And the rest is calcified and is stopped. It has been blocked from the light. It has been put into this tomb that this pyramid with the capstone missing represents a tomb. It represents a trap for souls, or a tomb for souls, a deadened state, a non-spiritual, non-conscious state of awareness, of non-awareness, really, of unconsciousness, I should say. So what is being done in this scene is the pyramid is actually being built, and that is the dark work. If the pyramid were finished, what would happen to the light in the scene? It would go out. It would disappear. It would be blocked. Okay? If we finish this pyramid in stone, you have to look at that eye as being in the sky behind the pyramid in the scene. Okay? Or you could say it's floating over top of it, but if we finish that pyramid, that 3D pyramid in front, okay, the light would be blocked by the stone. If we finished it in stone, you have to imagine that it's blocking out that eye and the light that is shining forth from that eye, and it would be finished in stone, in which case you would then have a completed pyramid in stone, which would represent the dark New World Order being completed, meaning a world of male dominance, total full spectrum masculine domination, okay, slavery, ignorance, darkness, etc., would be then complete. And the light of the Creator would be blocked out from the world permanently. In this interpretation of the symbol, you could also imagine that the ones who are performing that work, who consider themselves God, okay, would be like then the hidden eye in the scene. So here the eye would take on two components, okay? It would be being blocked out by the building project of the ones who consider themselves the masters or the owners of other people. And simultaneously, you could say, since they consider themselves God, these dark controllers, these dark occultists, the dark elite, okay, they would then be hidden and you would not be able to see them. They consider themselves, you know, the creator, the controller of everything, okay? And they would be permanently in the shadows, unable to be exposed, and their project, their male dominator world of slavery would be completed. This is the dark work, the dark great work. It is their great work. And in this instance, you could also then say the eye would take on a third perspective in that who is favoring the project being completed in this way? Well, that would be the dark God, would it not? Okay? That would be the force of chaos. That would be the force of division. That would be the force of darkness. That would be the force of ignorance. That would be the force of fear. Okay? You could call it Satan. You could call it the destroyer. Okay? You can give any given number of names, but it is ultimately the force which shuts consciousness down. And I would simply term that force fear. So that dark God or dark force, the force which destroys the light, which destroys consciousness, could also be then being seen as the God at the beginning of the project who favors that work because that's what it wants done. That's its will, to shut consciousness down and create a world of darkness and slavery. So that is one way of seeing the symbol. Simultaneously, we could see the symbol as representative of the true great work, the positive great work, the light great work, the work of light occultism, or as I like to call it, de-occultism, or true alchemy. So in that sense, let's say our work as light masons, see, dark masons would build with those bricks of ignorance, separation, and illusion, right? Light masons would do the opposite. They would build with light. Well, you're not going to see an image there just building with light. The image of light is represented by the all-seeing eye in that scene. That it takes up a very small portion of it because it is not active enough in the world, in our lives. It's not present enough in our lives. So we're starting at the same place of transition where there's mostly darkness and only a little bit of light. Okay? The dark occultists want to finish that project of darkness and block out the remainder of the light. The light occultists want to do the opposite, which is to tear down that pyramid, to tear down the things which weigh us down, to remove them or transmute them, to take down the barriers to self-realization, to take down the barriers to the light. So the true great work is symbolically represented in this image as removing those bricks or transmuting them into light, such that we are adding the light to the world and bringing it in more fullness down to the earth, such that there would be no pyramid there. The whole thing instead would be the all-seeing eye of the Creator and the light that brings forward into all of our lives, being the only thing present in that scene without the pyramid. Okay? The date, of course, is 1776. You could say, in earnest, when the light great work may have begun here on earth through the American Revolutionary period, and also certainly the dark great work being ushered in a bigger way with the birth of a dark occult organization that spread its tentacles everywhere into Europe and beyond in the form of the Bavarian Illuminati, a dark occult organization. So the goal of the true great work is to transcend the barriers that weigh us down and block us and divide us and keep us back from the light, hold us back from where we say we want to go, which is into a world where there is more knowledge, more understanding, more wisdom, more freedom, more prosperity, etc. Okay? So that symbol right there, I think, is an encapsulation. It's a concrescence of both of these works and how they differ, and how one group of occultists, the dark occultists, want to complete the world of ignorance, darkness, and slavery, and the other, the light occultists, or you could simply just say the de-occultists, the ones who want to make this hidden, so far hidden knowledge, thus far hidden, they want to bring it into the world for all to see, disseminate it, communicate it to others, and make it common sense knowledge so that people can then actively apply it in their lives and be wise as a result, and then be a positive co-creator of our aggregate experience as a result of the application of that, hence to hidden knowledge. So the true great work starts with the understanding of natural law. And we've gone over natural law almost ad infinitum, not only on this show, but certainly in my work and in my presentation series. So we're not going to completely re-break down natural law. I'll give very short definitions of what natural law is and what it means to understand it. So natural law is the universal, meaning everywhere present in creation, non-man-made, so inherent to creation itself, not written down by man, not invented by man, not a construct of the mind at all. It is an actual thing that is inherent in nature itself and can never be separated from the natural world. Universal, non-man-made, binding, meaning that it has an effect whether we understand it, whether we know about it, whether we're ignorant of it, whether we don't like it, whether we don't want it to exist, none of those things matter. Human perception has nothing to do with the existence and operation of natural law and whether it is in effect or not. And it is in effect at all times and places. There's nothing we could do to take it out of effect. There's nothing we could do not to be bound or affected by it. So that's what binding means. And binding and immutable, meaning unchangeable by anything that we or any other beings are capable of doing. Okay, so once again, universal, non-man-made, binding and immutable conditions that govern the consequences of the behavioral decision-making processes of beings with the capacity for holistic intelligence. That's as clear of a definition as I can give for natural law without people speculating about, well, what about the animal kingdom? Because everybody tries to apply the laws that govern the morality of human beings to animals and try to say, well, they don't live like that, so why are we held to a higher standard of behavior? Because our consciousness is at a higher level of complexity and capability than beings from simply just the animal kingdom. We have an animalistic component. We have an animal component to our consciousness, but it is not the totality of our consciousness. We have another side that is the human aspect of the being, okay, which a regular animal does not have, which makes us more complex and actually more conscious, and our form of consciousness is a higher form of consciousness than just any other animal. It is Satanism to believe that a human being is just another animal. As a matter of fact, that is one of what I would consider to be one of the major tenets of Satanism, is that a human being is no different than any other animal, and we should simply be living like any other animal. This is what Darwinian scientism followers actually see as the quote-unquote natural order. And let me emphatically state that is nothing of the kind. It is the exact opposite of the natural order when it comes to human beings. That may very well be the natural order. How animals interact with each other is natural to them. That is not our nature, because we are not simply any other animal. And for the people who still are stuck in that left-brain scientism-based really ancient paradigm of believing that the survival of the fittest means the survival of the most ruthless, and that the proper way of being in the world is to emulate the psychopath or emulate the animal kingdom and try to come out on top of all your fellow men and women and just rule the roost of humanity with an iron fist. And somehow that is good, or that is natural, or that is orderly, or that can ever create order. I mean, I just don't even know what to tell them at this point. It actually just saddens me to think that there are still people in the world who actually believe nonsense like that. And yet there are so many of them that think that this is the natural way, and somehow psychopaths are, the apex of human civilization, and somehow they are the apex of human genetics. It goes back into, as a brief aside here, it goes back into this entrenched scientism-based notion of Darwinism, of macrobiological Darwinian theory, as being the basis for true evolution. And as I said, when we talk about just the propagation of genes, that isn't the totality of real evolution. This is what people have equated to evolution. Okay, it's like saying that intellect is the totality of intelligence, when clearly there is a whole other aspect to holistic intelligence, namely creativity, compassion, intuition, nurturing, etc. All the right brain qualities that are left out of most Westerners, or indeed most people in the world's definition of actual intelligence. When we measure things like reading, verbal, and mathematical skills, we're not measuring holistic intelligence. We're measuring just intellect. Intellect is the first part of intelligence. Intellect, that's the intel part. And then gens, G-E-N-C-E, is the part that actually represents the right brain side, which is the creative aspect. It comes from the Latin genere, Okay, so we have the intella part representing the intellect, and then gens representing the Latin genere. The verb genere in Latin means to make or to create. So the creative side of the mind, the intuitive, the compassionate, the nurturing, the artistic and expressive side of the mind has to be taken into account when we're trying to determine holistic intelligence. So to equate evolution to just the propagation of the physical material is like trying to equate true intelligence to just intellect. It's not true. It doesn't work. And when people are trying to see it like that, they're missing a whole other side to the picture, which clearly doesn't enable them to get what the actual meaning of that term really is. So the people who think intellect is all there is to intelligence, they don't get what intelligence truly is. The people that think the propagation of genes, as put forward by this quote-unquote natural order Darwinian theory, is not the totality of evolutionary progression. So to call that evolution is a misnomer in and of itself. What we have to understand evolution as is the force which is willing consciousness to move forward and expand and evolve into greater and more complex forms. It doesn't mean just the propagation of DNA or genetic material. You can propagate DNA and genetic material and be devolving and be going through the process of the reverse of actual evolution. Just because you're moving forward in time and surviving doesn't mean you're evolving. Okay? You can be degenerating and going into less moral and less conscious forms over time and still propagating your genes. So just the propagation of genetic material has zero to do with evolutionary progress. Okay? We have to see this from a higher level perspective, that what real evolution is about is betterment of a being, is coming onto higher levels of awareness and consciousness, being able to see holistic patterns, being able to see and understand the laws of nature in operation and our role within those laws of nature. So morality absolutely has to do with true evolutionary progression. And this is where I want to begin the description of what the great work really is. Okay? So the great work starts when we begin to step into the realms of hidden knowledge, and we then uncover things like the knowledge of the human psyche, like the laws of nature, like natural law. So natural law is the universal, non-man-made, binding and immutable conditions that govern the consequences of the behavior of beings with the capacity for holistic intelligence. All right, which is human beings are. Therefore, we are bound by these laws of conscience. We are bound by these laws of morality. So the great work begins when we start to understand natural law. So what is the understanding of natural law? We know what natural law is, but what does it mean to understand natural law? To understand natural law means definitively having conscience. Conscience is the definitive knowledge of the objective difference between right and wrong behavior. So people don't think of conscience as knowledge. Okay? Conscience, of course, is a form of knowledge. People think of conscience as a form of action. It is not a form of action. Definitively, let me state, conscience is not a form of action. The exercise of conscience is a form of action. Okay? You're taking action. When you are exercising conscience, you are taking action. Conscience in and of itself is simply, purely knowledge. Okay? It is knowledge, and you could call it understanding. Conscience is the knowledge of the objective difference between right and wrong behavior, meaning you know what actions are rights because they do not cause harm to other beings, and you know what actions are wrongs because they do cause harm to other beings. Once we have that knowledge, and again, just write in the word, con, meaning with or together in the Latin language, the prefix con, you tack it onto a word, it means together or with. And then the word science in English, the second part of conscience, con, science, okay? Science comes from the Latin verb scio, sciere. Scio, sciere in Latin means to know or to understand. So we put them together, and conscience literally means, etymologically, to know together, common knowledge. Conscience is the common knowledge of the difference between right and wrong. And unfortunately, most people don't have that knowledge, so it's no longer common. That this is what we need to understand before we can do the great work. We need to definitively know the objective difference between right and wrong behaviors. Now, what does it mean once we have understood natural law to be living in harmony with natural law? Okay, or what does it mean to live in opposition to natural law? So living in harmony with natural law is truly exercising conscience, meaning that we are truly enacting in our lives through our behaviors, in our decision-making processes, we are choosing willfully to choose the right action over the wrong action. And we are then performing right action in our lives. That's what it means to live in harmony with natural law. To live in opposition to natural law means that we are ignoring conscience. We are ignoring the common sense knowledge of the difference between right and wrong, and we are willfully choosing to exercise wrong behavior over right behavior, and in doing so, through this coercive behavior, we are violating the rights of other beings, and then something happens in the world. When we either live in harmony with natural law or we live in opposition to natural law, we get a definitive result based on what we put out into the world through our behavior. So this is how natural law reflects back to us what we have put into the universe. When we live in opposition, when we live in harmony with natural law, we create all the things, we co-create in harmony with these laws, all the things that we say we want in life: peace, harmony, prosperity, freedom, order, goodness, justice, etc. Everything that a human being says they want present for themselves and for other people. So when we are living in harmony with natural law, because we're willfully choosing right action over wrong action, order is created in our lives. Conversely, when freedom and order, I should say. Conversely, when we are living in opposition to natural law, and we are willfully choosing behaviors that are harmful to other beings and violate their rights and cause harm to others, we are creating in our lives disorder, chaotic consequences, and ultimately slavery. We're bringing ourselves into deeper and deeper levels of slavery. And that brings me to what I would consider really the true law of attraction, what I have called the law of freedom. The law of freedom simply states that as morality increases, freedom increases. And this is in the aggregate of society. As more and more people are living in harmony with natural law, in the aggregate numbers, okay, the bulk of society, let's say the bulk of society were living in harmony with natural law, well, that society as a whole in the aggregate would be moving toward more freedom and more order in their lives. Conversely, if the whole society is living in opposition to natural law, freedom breaks down and the society goes into more and more disarray, more chaos, and more slavery, more bondage. So the law of freedom states that as morality in the aggregate of a society increases, then the freedom in the aggregate of that society also increases. As immorality in that society increases, then slavery and chaos in that society increases. And this is an unwavering, eternal law of nature, can never be broken. Order, peace, harmony, prosperity, and freedom can not be created any other way than through the acceptance of the laws of morality and aligning our behavior to those laws. It's not that, that it's possible to do it any other way. It cannot be done any other way. It's not possible to do. And no more than it is possible just to will yourself off the ground and counteract the law of gravity. Okay? It is, as long as you are on this planet, you are bound by the law of gravity. If you're in the three-dimensional body, you're in the three-dimensional realm, you are incarnate as flesh here on earth. You are bound by the physical laws that operate in this universe. Well, the same laws apply in the unseen realm. in the laws of, when it comes to the laws of morality. These laws are in operation whether you understand them or not, and you cannot countermand those laws. When you do things that are in harmony with them, you get one result. When you do things that are in opposition, you get the other result. And the universe does not care. It does not have human emotions as we do and take into account, well, why were you ignorant of them? I use the example, would the universe care if an ignorant 1-year-old, okay, who had just learned to walk, okay, who's, wandered away from his parents on a picnic, okay, let's say they're 1.5 years old, little toddler, almost, going to be 2. They wander away from the picnic, and they're going toward the edge of a cliff. Steep edge, steep drop-off. The universe isn't going to care if that baby walks over the cliff. The laws that are applied to physical matter are still going to apply to that child. So nature isn't going to care whether the child just went over there in error and in lack of understanding, in lack of knowledge. It's still going to gravity is still going to have an effect. It's not, the universe isn't going to say, oh my God, this poor innocent child, I can't allow this law to be in effect and, suddenly suspend this law just because I care about that child's life. It doesn't work like that. These are impersonal forces that are in operation. It's nothing personal. It's what people have to understand about natural law. It's not a being sitting there with a checklist or something like that on a tablet saying, well, did he learn about any of this stuff? Did he talk to people? Did he watch videos? Did he listen to lectures? Did he attend groups where people were trying to understand these things? It doesn't care what you did or didn't do. These are laws that work flawlessly 100% of the time like a computer program. I'm not telling people God's a computer program. I'm saying that the construct of the universe is like a computer program. It is bound by boundary conditions, laws that are like coded into it from its inception, from in its nature. And these laws just, all they take into account is, did you do A? Yes, I did A. Well, then here's your result. This is the output. If you hit A on a keyboard, does the computer say, well, I wonder whether he really intended to hit A or not. Maybe he was trying to hit S, which is right next to A. Okay? The keyboard and the computer doesn't care whether your finger slipped and went over to the S key and you really intended to hit A. When you hit A on the keyboard, the A comes up on the screen because that's how the code is programmed. That's how the universe programmed natural law. The creator of the universe programmed natural law into creation. It's nothing personal. It's a code that's running. And that's why you call law code. People have interchanged those terms in many cases. It literally is computer code in the construct we call the 3D universe. You can't take it personally. All you can do is recognize this code, this set of codes, this law, these laws are in operation for my greatest benefit and uplift in consciousness. They are trying to will me into the direction of higher consciousness and understanding, through willing me in the direction of evolutionary progression through the understanding of the laws of morality. They're not there as a prison mechanism. They're not there to defeat us. They're not there to eternally bind us as slaves. We're actually gifted with the free will of being able to make these behavioral decisions on our own with no one coercing us, okay? We are in full faculty of choosing our behavior. People don't want to believe that. They want to abdicate that personal responsibility and say, oh, no, I'm not in full command of what I am choosing for my behavior. Well, what are you, a puppet on a string? Is some other dimensional force hitting a key on the keyboard and you're just a piece of code in here? No, you're not. You have free will. This is a free will universe. A free will universe. Okay? We have choice. We have say over what we will do and not do. We are not eternally bound to do or not do anything. We can make a decision and renew ourselves in the current moment. So where the great work begins is in understanding the force of natural law, okay? This eternal, unchangeable body of laws that govern the consequences of the behavior of intelligent beings, and understanding our free will within the 3D universe. Okay, that we have, this is the random component, whereas natural law is the determined component. Natural law is the boundary conditions, the determined component of creation, the deterministic component of creation. Free will is the randomized component of creation, okay, which we have been blessed with, we have been granted. And intelligent beings have free will. Non-intelligent beings, or beings that don't have the capacity for true holistic intelligence like the animal kingdom, don't have as much free will. They are actually run like more circuitry. They are actually run on pure instinct in many cases alone, and don't have the full mental capacity to choose behaviors. Okay, we, however, do, because we have cognitive capabilities in the mind. Okay, we have the gift of the human psyche, which is much more complex and grants us more freedom than any of the other animals in the animal kingdom. And this is why we have to understand we are different than animals. We are not the same as animals. To say a human being is just an animal is wrong. It is incorrect. It is completely wrong. We are much more than just an animal. Do we still have an animal component? Yes, we do. We are biological like them in many ways. Okay? And we have I would say, most of the animalistic components of the animal kingdom also integrated into our makeup. But we have so much more than that. We are infinitely more than that in our capacity to understand, in our capacity to grow epigenetically, meaning grow beyond genes, beyond just genetics. We can grow in consciousness, whereas most other animals do not have that gift to be able to grow in consciousness epigenetically. Okay, so where the true great work, the work of tearing down the male dominator structure of slavery begins, is in the understanding of natural law and understanding of free will. Until we understand that, the great work cannot begin. It cannot progress in any being that doesn't understand the components of consciousness, that doesn't understand how natural law operates and how free will is actually present and is operating within us. Okay? We have to understand the components of consciousness, thought, emotion, and action. Understand what real non-duality means. Non-dual consciousness means that there is no contradiction between thought, emotion, and action within an individual. It doesn't mean everybody is the same, everybody's on the same level of consciousness, everybody thinks the same or does the same thing. That's not what non-duality means. It also doesn't mean that you can't show that this is different than this. That's simple delineation. That's distinction. That's making a discernment between two things. That's a very vital and important process. Now, you hear in the New Age movement a lot, oh, you're saying that this person's of a lower level of consciousness. Oh, that's divisive or non-dual thinking. Dual thinking. It's duality. No, it isn't. That's called discernment. That's called looking at two things, comparing and contrasting them, and understanding how they are either alike or different. Okay? And that's an analytical process of the mind that is very, very important if we want to be truly conscious and understand what's really going on here. So that's not what non-duality is about. Non-duality is an internal process. It's a process of removing the contradictions between your thoughts, emotions, and actions, such that you're a being that thinks, feels, and acts in non-opposition, in non-contradiction. All of those things are unified and on the same page. You won't do an action that you know is wrong. That's called dualistic consciousness. Okay? You wouldn't take part in continuing to propagate the world of slavery and illusion knowingly. So that's duality. That's oppositional consciousness. That's dual thinking. Okay? So this is what it means. Non-duality really means, as contrasted with this New Age variant of non-duality as everything being somehow the same or at the same level. And this is going to really come into play when I describe what the great work is to do, what it means to do it. Because so many people will say, you are promoting dualism, you are promoting people being combative and against each other. And in many ways, I am promoting people being against a certain form of consciousness. See, the negativity against evil, no tolerance for evil is what the true great work is actually about. It is about saying, I know that this is bad. I know that this can't lead to order. I know that this is a violation of other people's rights. I know that doing this and continuing to do it will stifle evolutionary progression, not only of myself, but of my entire species. Therefore, I am going to label this through discernment and say, this is something that we don't want. This is something that is bad. You cannot be afraid of negative terms when you're considering the true great work. So this throws out almost all New Age teachings immediately, because the New Age wants to tell everybody it's all love and light. We don't need to pay any attention to the negative. We certainly don't need to make any distinctions about what's negative or positive. They want to think it's all good. Everything's positive. Well, this is utter New Age babble. Okay? It's just utter nonsense that needs to be thoroughly rejected out of hand, because it doesn't take true discernment into the situation, and it doesn't say, is this moral or is this immoral? Is this right? Is this in harmony with the laws of nature? Is this in harmony with natural law? No. It wants to just, basically tell everybody, you're all one, you're all the same, and it's not true. People are at different levels of consciousness. We are of the same essence. We are of the same material, if you will, or non-material essence, however you want to look at it. We are of the same essence at the very base level, at the very fundamental level of consciousness. Yeah, everything is pure consciousness, having an experience. We are spirit in a human form. Energy, having an experience here as a human being to learn and to grow and to evolve. That doesn't mean that everybody's at the same level of understanding on that journey. And that doesn't mean that all levels of understanding along that journey are just as good as any other, okay? It doesn't mean that somebody who has absolutely no understanding of conscience is as good of a person as somebody who lives conscience every day of their lives and chooses right action over wrong action in every situation. Of course that's a better human being. Of course that's a more evolved human being. To say that person wouldn't be a better human being than a person who just says, I want what I want, and I'm going to kill anybody that gets in my way and take it, period, because I'm going to live like an animal. Well, would that somehow be the same as somebody who really, truly understands conscience and morality and attempts to honor other people's natural rights? Of course the person who understands conscience and morality is a better and more evolved human being. So this New Age notion of never labeling anything as bad or worse than something else and just saying it's just an experience, okay, is bunk hokum, okay? This is feel-good pseudo-spirituality that has no role in the serious student's life if we're going to be considering what real spirituality is about. So now, once we understand the difference between right and wrong, we will fully grasp the concept that what we are living in right now in the world is a state of slavery, is a state of wrongness. We are living in a state of existence that is ensconced and trapped in immorality in just about every way that you could possibly imagine or see. The people of this world continuously on a day-to-day basis continue to do things that violate the rights of other human beings and animals. On a day-to-day basis, we violate the rights of our fellow beings. We take the lives of our fellow beings. We take the rights of our fellow beings. We take the property of our fellow beings. We are in, right now, a state of existence that is like a prison or like a hell. And I don't say it eternally must be like that. I do not believe the universe or even Earth is a permanent hell. It can be changed. Consciousness must change. Consciousness must evolve for that to happen. And then we can make this a paradisical realm if we so choose. We can make this anything we want. If this could be a heaven, this could be a hell. And it could change from one to the other. And quite rapidly, as a matter of fact. It is not something that is eternally set in stone to be one way. Anybody who thinks that is under an extraordinarily poisoned worldview regarding not only what's possible, but regarding the nature of reality. They have a sick, poisoned worldview of the nature of reality. Now, I'm not telling you that will change. I said it can change, okay? There are prerequisites to creating change. The prerequisites are for the external conditions to change, what you are holding in your mind must change, because what you are holding in your mind, the things that you think, are what you're basing your decision-making processes on, and then in turn basing your behavior upon. Therefore, what the entire world is like is based upon the aggregate quality of behavior in a whole society. I'll say that again. What the whole world is like is based upon the aggregate quality of behavior of the individuals that comprise the world. That behavior is based on their decision-making processes in their mind at an individuated level, and in turn, those decision-making processes that they are using to determine what behaviors they will enact are in turn based upon the information that they have come to understand or not understand. Okay? So therefore, what you hold in the mind and understand, or don't hold in the mind and don't understand, is going to lead to decision-making, that's going to lead to output of behavior in the world, that's going to lead to the result that you get in the world. Okay? And that's an unchangeable process. Okay? That it always works like that. That's what I mean by unchangeable. You're not going to step outside the way that works. What you can change is, what do you hold in your mind? And therefore, what manifests on the other side of that equation, of that process. Okay? So in order to change the manifested result, you have to go back in that process past the choice of behavior, the decision-making processes that led to the choice of that behavior, to what are we putting into our mind? What have we come to understand or not understand? What do we need to understand? Okay? That is where the great work begins. Okay? It begins once we understand how that process works. Then we can look at the aggregate quality of the experience that all of humanity is living and say, what needs to be done in order to change this manifested result on a grand scale? Well, invariably, we will come to the conclusion, by just understanding that process that I've outlined, what needs to change is thought, is human thought, the way people think about themselves and the nature of reality. Until that changes, the manifested result can not change. Not only won't it change, it is an impossibility for that to change. And right now, we're getting the result that we're getting in the aggregate because so many people think a certain way that is out of alignment with truth and natural law. Only when we can bring more people's thoughts into alignment with truth and natural law, and then their behavior follows those thoughts. See, it's not just about knowing and understanding, it's about doing it. It's about living it through action, through the behaviors that you choose. So it goes back to that old fundamental axiom: to know and not to do is not to know. You cannot truly claim the knowledge of something unless you're actually engaged in the behavior. Okay? So you can't say, I know all about natural law, and you're not actually living natural law in your life. You're not actually choosing right action over wrong action. I'm not saying people need to be perfect or they can't slip up, but in general, you have to be outputting far more aggregate good quality behavior through not causing harm to others than any decision-making processes that lead to behaviors that cause harm or support the harm of others. So, and again, no one is perfect in any of these, in any of this. Perfection doesn't exist in this realm. If people are expecting perfection, get over it. You're going to be waiting a whole long time for that to occur. You'll be waiting eternally for that to occur, because perfection is the totality of creation itself and the mind that underlies that. You know, the unified consciousness that underlies that. Okay? It is the realm of pure potentiality where perfection lies. In the 3D manifested universe, there's no such thing as perfection. We can attain to that. We could aspire to that. You're not going to reach the totality of perfection, certainly not in a individuated life, in an incarnated physical, as an incarnated physical being. Get over that if you think that's what enlightenment is. I mean, that is the most ridiculous, nonsensical view of enlightenment that I've ever even heard, and many people still believe that that's what enlightenment is all about, is being perfect. Perfection is unattainable in the 3D realm. Enlightenment, however, is attainable in the 3D realm. because enlightenment is about what we know regarding what's truly going on around, within and around us. So to go back to this notion of the true great work, what the true great work is to do is no less than to change the minds of the people of this planet. The true great work on earth is to change the minds of the people on this planet such that they understand natural law and begin to live in harmony with it. Now, what I have just described there is more likely than not the most difficult, laborious, and absolutely effort-filled task that anybody could possibly ever come up with to try to do. This is why the people of Earth hate the true great work. This is why the people of Earth do not want to do the true great work. It's not called the great vacation. It's not called the great pleasure. Okay? It isn't called the great bliss, New Agers. Oh, if you do the great work, you will receive great bliss. It's not about just feeling bliss, okay, and experiencing blissful emotions. This is a drug that is being pushed off through people through the New Age movement and through the absolute abusive forms of meditation and yoga to create endogenous morphins or endorphins, morphine within the body created through so-called spiritual practices, which is never what these practices were intended to be used as. They're very important if we understand them in their proper usage. So it's called the great work for a reason. It's going to involve effort. The scientific definition of work is the ability to create change through the application of force. That's what work is. It is the usage of force to get something done in the world. Now, notice I said force. I did not say violence. Again, we have to understand through our understanding of natural law the difference between force and violence. Using violence always is violating someone else's rights. Okay? But applying force to something means you're applying pressure. You're putting pressure on it. You are attempting to move it. That's when you try to move a weight, you are applying force to it. If I need to move this table here with this computer on it to a different location, I need to apply force actively. Otherwise, it's not going to just magically move from one place to another. Well, humanity is the same thing. They're weighted down. They're not just going to magically move from one place to another. Okay? A force is going to have to be applied. A force in consciousness is going to have to be applied. And this is what people don't want to understand. They believe erroneously through absolutely deceptive teachings and teachings that are propagated in many cases unknowingly and by rote, that the force of should I say, epigenetic progression in consciousness, that consciousness is just automatically going to move upward without us having to do anything. And let me tell you something, folks, it does not work like that. Until will, effort, and force are applied to consciousness, consciousness will sit there motionless like a weight on a table. That's what the laws of inertia are about. You think they don't apply to consciousness? They apply to the physical world, but not us. Okay? An object at rest tends to remain at rest. An object in motion with momentum behind it tends to remain in motion. And it's easier to keep it in forward motion because there's already force applied and momentum is working in your favor. Conversely, when we're moving in the opposite direction and we want to slow something down and get it moving 180 degrees in the reverse direction, that's going to involve a great amount of work, of force. Imagine a locomotive moving 200 miles an hour in one direction with all of its fuel continuing to press for that, and it's not slowing down and it's not applying the brakes. What would it take? How much effort and work and application of force would it take to pull that locomotive back in the opposite direction? A whole lot. And that's what humanity is right now. We're a locomotive going down the tracks in the de-evolutionary progression in consciousness. And in order to move that forward in the opposite direction that it's been going for millennia, force is going to have to be applied. It's not going to be a piece of cake. It's going to be something that is going to be hard work. And the alchemists in the ancient traditions had a saying, labore et constantia, which means work and constancy, work and persistence, never-ending work, work that is going to have to continuously be applied, force that is going to have to be continuously applied in order to move it in that other direction. And as soon as you uplet on that force, you know what happens? It starts sliding back. You can look at the universe as a hill that you have to move upward. That's how evolution works. Now, what is the force of gravity that's making you slide backwards down that hill? That's called entropy. That's called involution. It's the force that works against evolution. Well, what is the ordering force? What is the epigenetic ordering force? That's the evolutionary force, and it will take you so far biologically until you get to the point where you have the capacity for true intelligence. But then what takes over? Free will takes over. And notice what I just said. Free will takes over at that point. That becomes the ordering principle. That becomes the force that drives evolution forward. We have to will ourselves forward. It happens on its own when it is in the realm of pure biology, when it is in just the realm of ordering the matter. The universe does that on its own, okay? Forms get ordered on their own. Galaxies get created by the universal forces. Okay? You could look at them as principalities, angels. It doesn't make a difference. Higher dimensional beings, whatever you want to look at those forces as. Okay? You could just look at them as natural forces. Okay? They are operating automatically. That's an autopilot mode. Once you get to a point where there is consciousness at a higher complexified level involved, and now the being has the ability to comprehend the forces that are at work, now you have free will operating. That's where the universe lets off. And it says, well, I'm not going to do this on my own because that would be a violation of rights that others have. Do you want to stay where you're at? Do you want to go forward? You're not a puppet here. This is a free will universe. You're in a free will zone, ladies and gentlemen, in case you haven't figured that out yet. God's not making every single event in the universe happen. We're making many of the events in the universe happen. Okay, the natural events and the natural laws, that's controlled by the creator of the universe. You don't have any say about how those function. What you have to say about is how will you behave in the presence of those laws. That's called free will. And you do one thing, you get one result. You do a different thing, you get another result. So you can create in multifaceted ways, and you can get multifaceted forms as a result of how you are creating, whether you're creating consciously or unconsciously. And what we have to understand is when we are creating in full consciousness of these laws, we are actively applying our free will to move our evolutionary progress forward. That's the force that counteracts the force of involution, or what has been called in the scientific realm entropy. It is the ordering force. Free will is the ordering force that counteracts the disordering or chaotic force of entropy, or what is, as it is known in the occult realm, as involution, the force that counters the evolutionary force. We now are the reins are in our hands, is what I'm telling you. This is actually phenomenal news for people who are paying attention and really understanding this. Okay? People want to think, oh, somehow we're the victims of fate. We are not the victims of fate. The ability to move forward in consciousness and evolutionary progress in our species, that capability rests firmly with us. The reins of driving the evolutionary force forward are firmly in our hands because we have that free will. We just have to use it. We have to apply the will. See, this is so in keeping with what we described. I believe it was the last show we did on Thelema. Okay? This so describes what thelema really means as will. It's aligning our individuated will with the will of creation. Well, what is the will of creation? Does it want entropy? Does it want dissolution of forms? Is the universe trying to order things, or is it trying to break things down? Well, it puts a force there that you have to struggle against to give you, it's like, if there's going to be a sharp blade, you're going to need a grindstone. Okay, it needs something there to counterbalance and move against. Okay, and it's given us free will. So what do you think it wants for us? Does it want us to devolve, or does it want us to evolve? And I feel it does want to go in a particular direction. It wants higher ordering. It is a complexity conserving machine. It wants more complexity. It wants more order. It wants more freedom. It wants more truth. It wants evolutionary progression, not involution, not just continued entropy. Entropy is a force that is always at work in the universe, because that's that grindstone for the blade that we're trying to sharpen. Okay? And the free will acts as the pushing force. It acts as the force that is going to order things and bring higher levels of complexity and understanding and consciousness into the equation, and then ever move things forward. When we align our will to the higher will of creation, which is saying it wants things to move forward, it wants things to progress, it wants things to grow higher in consciousness and awareness. Okay? When we align our will to that force, there's nothing that can stop us, because we are aligning our force with the will of the universe itself. You could call it the will of God, if you want, if you're comfortable with that term. What's going to counteract that force? Nothing. It's the strongest force in anything, everywhere present. The problem is, so many of us are ignoring that will. So many of us are refusing to do that work, because is it easy? And I'm not going to lie and sit here and try to blow smoke up people's rear end and say it's just easy and it's a piece of cake. There's nothing to it. Based on where we're at right now, it's hard work. It doesn't have to be this hard. It actually is a lot easier than how hard it's going to be based upon the corner that we have jammed ourselves into. We've made more work for ourselves than was necessary, with how deep into darkness and ignorance we have allowed the human species to slip, because we've stopped doing the great work as a whole, as a people. There's isolated pockets of individuals scattered to the four winds of the earth who are still doing the great work. And most people have said, that's too hard for me, I'm out. But they're not out. They're very much in the mess. This is what, again, this goes back to that concept of out in thelema, as we talked about in the last show. What it means to be out of mind control, to be out of the involutionary slipstream and to step into the evolutionary slipstream of creation, to be consciously creating one's aggregate reality in a wise way. So what does it actually mean to do this? Again, the great work is to change the way the people of Earth think. That's the great work here. I'm sure on other planets, the great work, is the work that they need to be doing may be slightly different. But right now, here on Earth, again, I'm always talking from the perspective of being here now, not worrying about other planets, other dimensions, other times, the past, the future. Everybody wants escape. They don't want to deal with what's going on here and now. Everything but anything but that. Talk about time travel, talk about other dimensions, talk about other beings, talk about other realms, talk about other species. How about humanity on Earth 2014? Let's talk about that and what needs to be done. Okay? But that's highly unpopular. Okay? Because that brings people and roots them down onto the planet and says, what are you doing to change things? What are you doing to end the current human condition of slavery on Earth? Okay, and most people, you know what they'll answer with that? Goose egg, silence. They have nothing to answer with because they're not doing anything. Okay, and I understand you really can't truly be fully active in that process until you have enough knowledge. But that doesn't mean you wait forever. That doesn't mean you just sit on the sidelines watching like a spectator sport. Oh, it's really great what Mark's doing over there. Hey, Bob's doing a good job on his show. Hey, we got some other researchers over here. They're doing great. Well, it's all a spectator sport until you're involved and on the playing field. Life is not a spectator sport. We're asking for help, ladies and gentlemen. That means you. That means you listening. No, not the other person. You. Yes, you. Yes, you. The ones who's looking back from the mirror. You. Okay? And again, highly unpopular. I realize how unpopular what I say is to many people. I'm not naive in that sense. I am not seeing the world through rose-colored glasses and thinking everybody's saying, Mark, it's so great what you're telling us. You know, I get it, folks. I get the imperative that I'm speaking with. I get how unpopular it is to people, because what I'm telling you in no uncertain terms is, if this is going to change, it's up to you to change it. It's not going to change magically. There's no savior coming to rescue us, okay? Contrary to popular belief, the Galactic Federation of Light isn't descending in their crafts to come and rescue the idiot species called humanity from its ignorance. It's not going to happen. Get over it. Get over it. It's wishful, magical thinking. That is New Age hokum, okay? If we're going to save ourselves from this situation, we need knowledge, we need care, we need courage, and most of all, we need persistent willpower. No one wants to hear this. They want to be told, it's just a natural progress. It's going to happen on its own. It's going to unfurl organically. All you got to do is sit back and watch and observe. Just observe. Okay? New Age BS. A complete nonsense. We need to take an active role in our evolutionary progression, because right now the reins are in our hands. The natural forces of ordering, the principles of order, got us to where we are biologically now, okay? And is helping to continue to work out things in the biological domain with human beings, because believe me, there's another story to that where we, have been seriously messed with in the biological domain, which we won't get into tonight, but I will be getting into in big ways on my What on Earth is Happening shows in the future. But I'm talking about, in general, the ordering force in creation takes biological species up to a point, and then once they develop the capacity for intelligence, it lets off and it says, you need to take it from here because you have free will now. It imbued free will into that creation, and now it's saying, the game is yours now. Do what you want. Make what you want. What do you want to make? And humanity has responded and said, let's make a prison and live in it forever. Real great. Real wise choice. Couldn't have done any better. Yeah, we can make anything? Anything. You mean literally anything we want to create? Yes, anything you want to do, you have free will. What do you want to make? How about a prison? Sounds like a great idea, doesn't it? And this is what we have to transcend. We have to transcend this stupidity. We have to transcend these completely erroneous beliefs that have no basis in truth, that we continue to stay attached to believing. What have I just described there? Completely erroneous, dogmatic belief systems that have no basis in truth and only serve to hold us back from our progression from where we say we want to go in evolutionary terms. That's called a false religion, ladies and gentlemen. It is a false religion. And what the great work, and religion means, from the term religare, we've covered this before, it means to tie back, to hold back, or to thwart from forward progress. So a false religion is going to thwart us from forward progress in consciousness and in our evolutionary progression in consciousness. Okay? When we understand what the false religions are, what the great work is to do is to dissolve the false religions. And again, this is that concept of breaking down that which has been calcified. Okay? Getting down to the pure essence that lies underneath all of the calcification. This is the process of alchemy. It's a process of dissolution, of breaking something down. It's not about doing anything new. It's about taking what's there, breaking it down, getting all the crud and the impurities out, okay? And then you're left with a pure essence. It's an apophatic process. The great work is an apophatic process. It means it works through negation. It doesn't say, here's all the new things you need to do. It says, here's what you're doing that is untrue, that is false, that is immoral, that you need to stop doing. That you need to stop doing. Again, highly unpopular. And then you have things like the New Age movement that says, never try to teach anybody by saying, don't do this. It's pure bunk. It is pure pseudo-spiritual, psychobabble, nonsense garbage to tell people you should only ever state anything in the affirmative. You should never tell anybody, don't do something. Sure you should. Why should you explain to a child why not to run out into the street? Because a car could be coming, and that car is going to be a whole lot harder and moving with a whole lot more momentum than a little child who's pretty much a bag of bones and blood. And if they get clobbered by that car, it's not going to be a pretty sight. So more likely than not, you want to explain to the child as soon as you possibly can, if you live in an urban environment of any kind, why it's probably not a good idea to go wandering into the middle of the street without at least first completely checking in all directions whether a car is coming or not. You do want to say what not to do, okay? Because we're engaged in harmful behaviors that we need to stop doing. And they all comprise religion, false religion. I want to qualify that because there is a positive term. Religion can also mean a positive thing. Just like the Great Seal is both works, both great works, the dark great work and the light great work, okay? Religion is two things as well. False religion holds us back. True religion moves us forward. And I would tell people there's only one true religion. There's only one true religion. Truth and the truth of natural law. The truth of the dynamics that are inherent in nature is the only real religion. Until we understand those things and understand that they are working toward evolutionary progression in consciousness, in morality, to help to make intelligent species more moral beings, okay? Until we understand that force, we can't make any headway, we can't make any progress because we have not taken truth into ourselves. Truth is the true ordering religion. And religion, in that sense, comes from the term relegare, which can also mean to reunite with. That which has been separated from a source can be reunited or tied back or bound back to the original source. So religion, as in its etymological roots from the term relegare, I would describe a false religion as being this first definition that I gave. Relegare in Latin means to bind, to tie back, to hold back, to thwart from forward progress. False religions do that. Relegare also can mean to reunite with. Once something has been separated from something else, you reunite it, you tie it back to. Okay? So in that sense, that's describing true religion. And only truth can do that. Only truth can reunite us with who we are. We need to be reunited with truth. That's what coming into true religion does. In doing that, we are reuniting ourselves with truth. And then we are living according to natural law. So the great work is to assist others in going through that process of personal transformation to reunite with truth so that we can all move forward together. Because evolution doesn't happen just in individuated pockets. We are actually moving as an entire species together. People think, there's going to be this big separation and break off. There's going to be an ascension of one class of people and a descension of others. It doesn't work that way. We are all in this together. See, that's duality consciousness. Real unity consciousness knows that one who's in real unity consciousness knows we are all in this together. And we are all going to evolve together, or we are all going to devolve together in our experience. That doesn't mean I can't evolve in consciousness at an individuated level, but I will still be ensnared and entrapped in the actual real-world 3D situation where the entire species around me is devolving, okay? And it's pulling me into that morass and abyss with them. And this is where the New Agers don't get it. They think, oh, it's all okay. That's okay. No, it's not okay. It's not okay to just sit back and allow the force of entropy and involution to take everybody. And you think it's all okay just because you know what's going on and because somehow you become more evolved. No, that's not what the great work is. That's not what spirituality is. That's like saying, as long as I'm okay and everybody else around me is suffering, screw them. Is that spiritual? Is that evolved? It's nothing of the kind. Okay? Real spirituality and really doing the great work is saying, if I understand what the truth is, I have to help these poor people out here who are stuck in darkness and illusion to also understand it so we can all move forward together and create something better in our lives. That's the real great work. That's real spirituality. So what are these religions that are holding us back? We have to clearly define these religions, because until we understand what these religions that hold the progress of evolutionary development in consciousness, epigenetic evolution, okay, until we know what the forces that are holding those things back, okay, we don't know what we have to dissolve, to get rid of, to get out of our makeup so that we can purify and move forward. Okay, that's what this dissolution process is all about. We have to crumble away our religions, our false religions. Again, I should always qualify that and say false religions, okay? The false religions, there are 5, okay? And people would say, well, aren't there a whole lot more religions on the planet than that? Yes, if you only consider cultural religions, okay? I'm grouping all of them as one thing, as one type of religion. The cultural religions, meaning things like Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, Buddhism, Shintoism, Taoism, etc., all of these things considered religions culturally in different areas of the world, okay, with their followers, etc., I group as one item. That's cultural religion, what has been traditionally referred to as religion in the world religions, okay? All of which have some valid seeds of truth, but all of which also act as control mechanisms in the world to hold people back from a total understanding of truth through a total understanding of natural law. So that is one of the religions, cultural religion, one of the false religions, because an ism, just saying, I am this one thing and everything else is invalid, is going to hold you back. That's limitation in thinking. That is limitation in understanding. And again, it isn't to say there aren't some good core seeds of real spirituality and real truth contained in any of those given religions. I'm not knocking every single one of them and saying they're all invalid. I'm saying if you only consider one and say everything else is invalid, there's nothing I could glean from studying this topic of inquiry or understanding this cultural religion or this tradition or this science, well, you're limiting yourself. And limitation is moving in the opposite direction of progression. It's not expansion, it's shutting down through fear often. So that's the first religion, cultural religion, the first false religion. The second false religion is also a right-brained aspect. That's the New Age movement, which I've been talking about. This is the catch-all for anybody of a right-brained imbalance, form of imbalance toward the right brain hemisphere that does not subscribe to any of the many cultural religions. So that's the second right brain form of religion. Then we have 2 left brain forms of religion. I've also talked about one of them, scientism. This is not real science that goes wherever the evidence or the truth leads. This is science as practiced and funded by institutions, scientific institutions that are funded with government grant money. And whatever the backers, the funders, want the scientific evidence to show or to promote, that's generally the direction that science looks, and anything to the contrary it won't publish, okay? And anything to the contrary of entrenched paradigms that mean lots of money, publishing rights, tenure in universities, etc., forget anything to the contrary being brought forward by scientism. It isn't real science. It's the veneer of science. It's the illusion of science. Okay? We're not doing real science in the world today. Okay? Real science would look so much drastically different. Real science works like this, folks. If there was a technology that can completely obviate the need for any fossil fuels, so-called fossil fuels, it would be developed and implemented in humanity immediately. That's not going to be done, and that's going to be held back, and even the research into things like that in free energy technology is going to be held back because there's too much money to be lost in bringing forward those technologies, and there's too much control to be lost in bringing forward those technologies. So you know what science does? It says, yes, master, I won't go into that box. Okay? That's Daddy's hidden closet, and I don't go there because I'm told that I'm a good little boy and I don't go into those places. You think that's real science? It's a joke, is what it is. And anybody that thinks that's real science is a religious advocate. That is their religion, scientism. That's what scientism is. Left brain religion, false religion. The last and final, there's two more. The second and final left brain imbalanced false religion is authority, the religion of the belief in a certain class of human beings having a right, quote unquote, to issue commands to other human beings that they call laws, and those human beings who they consider basically their subjects, who are bound by their laws, have a moral obligation to obey those laws, whether they are in keeping with natural law or not, whether they are in alignment with morality or not. This is a total illusion based on a diseased psyche. I've talked about it so much in my work. It's worth repeating here today, but I just want to explain it as one of the left brain false religions, okay? And we can get into that ultimately this is really the thing that is holding us back the most as a species, is the belief in authority, okay? And then there's one universal overarching religion that destroys both hemispheres of the brain and keeps people from looking into true religion, which is truth, and that's called money. Money is the ultimate religion. It is the God, it has become the God of this world. And I tell people all the time, if your God is a piece of paper with no real value, then pretty much you probably deserve your own enslavement, if that's your notion of what a value system really is. Because it's not anything of the kind. It's an illusion. It's a control system. It's not based in anything that is real. And all it does is divide people. You want to talk about duality consciousness. That's the thing that is set up there to keep people in both of these schisms of left and right brain imbalance. Keep our attention focused on this nonsense that isn't really worth anything. See, that's the false one eye, okay? It's the God that is propped up as God by the dark workers, and in doing their great work, that is their tool, the monetary system, okay? Because it is so hard to escape from it, because it is the most deeply entrenched belief or false religion, and it binds all the other false religions together. It is at work in the New Age community. It is at work in cultural religions through the vast amounts of money they take in through donations and collection plates and selling trinkets, okay? It is ensconced in the scientism community through government grant money, okay, and is completely ensconced in politics and the so-called authority religion. That's what backs that whole religion up and makes it possible through funding, okay, of coercive projects and coercive institutions, all right? And people continue to take part in all of these other institutions for the very reason that they're being offered more of their paper God. Well, a species that has a paper as a God, like I said, they're in the right place, and it's called a prison. And that's where they really belong until they stop believing in that nonsense. Okay? Until we stop believing in all of these religions, in the aggregate, humanity belongs in a cage. Okay? And that's highly unpopular too, and people will deride me and say, how dare you say that? How could you say something like that? Does a people who believe in total illusion and try to make illusion reality, do they really belong free or walking around? Or is that somebody we would say belong? I would say Earth is actually less of a actual prison than it is an institution. This is an insane asylum. The aggregate quality of consciousness on Earth is insanity. Okay, that's really what describes our overall body of consciousness as a people, because we all believe in illusion. People believe in that which is not real, is that which is not existing in nature. That's called an insane person. That's called an insane society. All of these things are not real, and yet we believe in them so firmly that we're willing to do harmful behavior to others because we're attached to something that isn't real. Could you imagine anything being more insane? This is what humanity is. So we belong sequestered from the rest of the universe by right. The rest of the universe shouldn't have to deal with this until we become intelligent enough to understand that what we are engaged in is pure folly and illusion and stop engaging in it. Then we'll be able to be let out of the institution called Earth and meet the rest of the community. But until we go through that process of awakening through the great work, don't expect any level or modicum of freedom here. Expect the reins to get tighter and tighter and tighter, because when people become more and more and more insane, what happens? They get shackled down to the bed tighter and tighter to prevent them from doing harm to themselves and others. And that's where humanity is at. We're in an insane asylum by our own making. Nobody else is doing this to us right now. We continue to propagate the worldview of the dark occultists. We continue to do the work of the dark occultists. Nobody wants to take that responsibility. Nobody wants to say, humanity is enslaving humanity. We are our own enslavers because we will not step up and say, no, I will not continue to believe in this, and I will not continue to perform these actions. Again, the apophatic variant of things is the most highly unpopular way of describing how we get from here to there, how we get from this place of low consciousness to a place of higher consciousness. No one wants to hear it stated like that. They want to hear it, stated as, oh, it's all just such a wonderful, easy progression that's organic. The universe is backing us, and it's got our back, and all these other beings have our back. We have to do this alone for ourselves with our own strength and our own willpower. This is what is lacking in humanity. The masculine component of consciousness is what is so lacking in humanity. It keeps us in this slave think that someone else is responsible for me. I am their property. They are the one who has to uplift me. They are the one who has to guide me. No, you are the one who has to guide yourself. You are the one who has to be your own master. You are the one who has to be your own guru. You are the one who has to be your own intermediary between you and the divine essence that underlies everything in creation. No one else can do that for you. But we can assist in that process. The alchemists of the world can assist by pointing someone into the right direction of the knowledge that they need to incorporate and understand. And that is part of the great work. And that cannot be done timidly either. No more than the work of evolving ourselves through will should or can be done timidly. You have to step into that state of empowerment and do it. It's an active, forceful, willful, masculine principle. And that is not discounting the sacred feminine principle of non-aggression, non-violence. I am a strong advocate of the non-aggression principle, the sacred feminine energy, nurturing, true care, compassion toward others, okay? Empathy, deep emotion. This is what sets our compass. That's the very compass. It's that care is the generative principle that needs to lie under our actions and drive our actions. Again, this goes back to thelema, love under will. Well, unless the will is being driven and supported by love, where's it going to go? Nowhere. You have to literally look at that as an equation. Like, write down the word will on top, okay, of a piece of paper, draw a line. Okay, you could represent that line as like a plane or a board or something like that, underneath the word will, and then write the word love under it. Love is the foundation upon which the will has to be built. And love is what's going to move the will forward. You're going to lift up that whole thing. You're going to lift up love from the bottom, okay? That's the generative principle. That's the base of everything we do. And then will is going to be uplifted as a result because it's resting on top of that foundation. That's what was meant by that statement.
Mark, that's a great point out, if I can comment really quickly,
sure.
That to see that as the old school fraction when we were kids in school, the common denominator in that equation is love.
That's
love
right.
Under will. Will is the numerator, whatever, on top. And it was tough to get a handle on, but that's exactly, so thank you, Mark, for clarifying
yes.
that. Will is subservient to the love. Love is the denominator in that,
that's
and
right.
pushing that will forward. And that's the combo. Thanks, Mark.
And what we have to understand that form of love as is there were three kinds of love talked about in specifically the ancient Greek mystery traditions of consciousness. There was philia, which is the love between brothers and sisters, the platonic love. It could also mean mental love, okay? And that was actually really, let's start with eros. Eros was romantic love, okay? This is what the love between a man and a woman, romantic attraction, etc., okay? Caring about your spouse in the sense of, attraction to them, etc. Okay, romantic love is eros. This was seen in the mystery traditions as actually a very important form of love, but the lowest of the three. Then you had mental love. This is when you are extending, it's not only what you care about in the day-to-day interactions with you and other human beings, but it's fraternal love, okay? The love between brother and sister, the love between friends, the love between all members of a community, extending love out. I would say that needs to be extended out to also other non-human beings as well. Beings that are not just our species, but all beings. So that's the second, and what I would consider an even higher form of love is philia. This is, again, where the word philosophy is based on, the love of wisdom. Philia, philios, sophos, wisdom. Okay? So then you have the highest form of love that was taught in the ancient Greek mystery traditions, which was agape. Now, agape is universal love. Agape is alignment of our individuated will with the will of creation. Agape is the expansion of consciousness to incorporate the laws of nature and incorporate the will of creation into the equation of what you are doing in life. It is universal, pulling back and seeing the really big picture of how everything works and then aligning your life to those forces. Okay, which are about uplift and growth and forward progression in consciousness. All right, learning and growing here. That's agape. That's the expansive force of consciousness, and that's how I define love. That's the way that I try to explain to people. This is how we need to understand love. You could look at it as love with all capital letters. Distinguish it from look at eros as love with all lowercase letters, as in I love you, the statement that a husband may make to his wife or a wife to her husband, okay? Then look at, philia as love with a capital L, okay? You're pulling back and saying, I care about people, okay? I care about what happens to you. I empathize with what happens. Okay, so that's a higher form of love. It's pulling back and it's more awareness. It's not just saying I love you because you're directly in my life or you're my immediate family member. It's saying I care about the well-being of all beings. Okay, then agape is truly universal love. That's higher consciousness itself. That's alignment with truth. That kind of love. Look at that as love with all capital letters, all uppercase letters. If you want to, delineate it in English, and since we don't really have, we have different forms of expressing care, but really only one word that means love. Okay, these three words, eros, philia, and agape, really delineated these types of consciousness. Okay, one is a very personal and it's only taking some people into account. Then you go up to a higher level, it becomes wider in its scale, in its breadth, and it becomes maybe possibly even global. And then you go up to agape, and that's universal love. The love I'm talking about that has to underlie our will is universal love. It's agape, okay? And I'm not discounting the importance of the other two forms. I'm just saying that's when I talk about this in conjunction with the true evolutionary progression and doing the true great work, the love that needs to underlie it is the agape form of love, just to clearly make that clear. Okay? So what we need to do in performance of the true great work is to break down the belief universally throughout this planet, okay, globally I should say, the belief in the false religions. Now listen to what I just said there and listen to how difficult that work is going to be. I didn't say impossible. I'm never going to tell you this work is impossible. It is absolutely possible, It can be done. Will it be done? That's an entirely different question and an entirely different story. And I don't know whether it will be done or not. It doesn't have to be done. We could be destroyed, folks. Humanity can go away, you know? We won't be the first. We won't be the last, okay? Species come in and out of existence in their progression through consciousness all the time. Humanity can go away. And more likely than not, that seems to be what we are choosing. I'm not telling you it has to go that way. I'm telling you based on where consciousness is now. If I were a betting man, I'd bet on humanity going away or being permanently enslaved and devolved into a different form that is no longer possible of even re-evolving into a human form. I bet on that outcome. I would certainly put my money on that outcome based on where we're at now, as opposed to truly accomplishing the great work. That being said, while I may be a pessimist in that realm, that being said, I will never tell anybody that it is not possible. It is 100% possible if we want it bad enough, if we care to do this work enough, and if we are relentlessly persistent in the application of force when it comes to speaking the truth into the universe. If we do the great work with those qualities in operation, okay, it can be done. Can be done. Different than will it be done. I don't know the future, okay? Don't ask me whether this will definitely occur, because I'm just going to tell you I don't know. That's not up to me. It's not up to me alone. That's up to everybody working on this planet. And we're always doing one of the forms of the work, whether we know it or not. If we're actively involved in changing consciousness for the better, we're involved in the great work, the true great work. If we're not doing anything, if we're not involved in that work, we are doing the dark great work. There are only two ways of doing it. You're always co-creating reality. And if you're creating it consciously, you're doing the true great work. And if you're communicating how that operates, how that dynamic operates, you're doing the true great work. If you're not doing that, if you haven't understood and are communicating that to others, you're actively involved in, through not doing the true great work, you are actively doing the dark great work. And that will also be highly unpopular to hear from most people. So what I'm saying is you're either part of the solution or you're part of the problem. Is that divisive? Maybe so. Is it true? It's also true. And I say unfortunately true. Believe me, I would love it to work the other way, where the people who really want to better themselves, that they're just separated from everybody else and they receive a different reality than everyone else. That would be great. I would think it would actually be much more fair. I would use the word fairness when it came to something like that. Unfortunately, that is also something that the universe doesn't really take into account. It's fair in the sense that we're receiving justice as a people in the aggregate by what we have allowed to go on here. It's the notion biblically that the sins of the father shall be visited upon the sons. We didn't make the totality of this condition. The people that came before us largely made it. But in our belief system, because we have free will to choose to think differently at any given time and place, we are perpetuating the condition. And thus we are inheriting the bad karmic consequences and the bad results. Until we decide to change our mind, then change our behavior, the condition cannot change. That is just the unfortunate reality of how reality works. And again, it's highly unpopular. To get people to even understand these dynamics is one of the hardest things you will ever do in your life. To even try to communicate these dynamics. It's not easy. That's why it's called work, folks. Once again, it's not a vacation. We're not here to be on vacation, okay? When we tag out of this realm after we've done the great work, you could take a vacation for a while, okay? But right now, here, feet on the ground, we have a mission to accomplish. The mission is to break down the false religions so that we can end slavery on the earth. That's the mission of all the spiritual warriors who incarnated onto this planet. Okay? We are here to end slavery That is our mission as spiritual warriors, and we've been derailed from it by our belief in all the false religions. Some of us got involved in the cultural religions. Some of us got suckered in by the whole monetary system and became people that that's all they care about. Some of us said, oh no, people need quote-unquote masters. I want to get involved in the authority system called government. Some of us got involved in scientism and bought into this absolute nonsense crap notion that matter is primal to everything. And there's no really such thing as spirit. Everything's just a mechanized machine and works like, a robot, a wind-up doll, okay? And they went down the scientism religious path. And then other people bought into the New Age nonsense. They got derailed because they believe, oh, hey, the aliens from the Andromeda galaxy, they're on their way, It's just a matter of time before they descend down on the planet and, they take us off-world. We're going off-world, don't you know? Because we so deserve to be at the level of consciousness that humanity is at. We so deserve to be out there in outer space with other actual intelligent species that may be out there in the galaxy and in the universe, don't you know? Humanity's so worthy of that based upon what the Earth is like right now. Not only have we destroyed our own consciousness, we've destroyed we've put a good, chink in the actual armor and life of the actual life-carrying capacity that is the Earth. We've actually damaged the world that we live upon, the actual living, dynamic planet that we live upon. We've gone a long way to degrading that in addition to degrading ourselves. So, to go back to what the work is, it is to get other people to abandon their religion. It's to first abandon your religions. Abandon all your false religions. Then it's to help to influence other people to abandon all their false religions. That's what the great work is to do. And these things are false religions that hold us back from the progress in consciousness and the understanding of truth. Because all the people, look, just think about this for a moment. The people who understand what I'm saying, just think about this. You'll understand it with greater clarity. Do the people who fully subscribe to any one of those religious belief systems I've mentioned, do any of them truly understand at a very deep fundamental level, truly, the difference between right and wrong, and are living that knowledge in every moment of their lives? Can you make the statement that the Buddhists out there, okay, who are never active in anything, they're pillow sitters, let's be honest, okay? They're not really trying to change consciousness on the Earth, okay? If Buddhists were trying to change consciousness on the Earth in a mass scale, they would be putting out the information about how consciousness has been manipulated. They would be putting out the information about how we have to reach out to others and not be passive. How many Buddhists have internet radio shows that talk about the dark occult? How many Buddhists have internet radio shows that not just deal with just principles of Buddhism and the Eightfold Path and Fourfold Path, the four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, etc., okay? How many Buddhists are talking about the actual manipulation of human consciousness that's going on this planet, okay? How many people are advocating, how many religionists are advocating for the real great work of a change in consciousness being done? No, they're telling you, believe in this, accept this, okay? Accept this being as your savior, accept that being as your savior. Try to just, be passive. Don't get involved. How many Buddhists are taking place in a march against the Federal Reserve System? Okay? How many Buddhists are, actively demanding that GMOs be taken out of our food? All right? How many Buddhists are, advocating that people truly understand their inherent right to self-defense? So few people really understand what's really going on and are actively involved in the solution. That's why we're not making any headway. We have halfway understanding at best in some cases. You see any priests talking out against the corruption in government? Catholic priests, Protestant priests, Baptist ministers? You'd see any of these priests, so-called holy men, talking about how a slavery system is set up in the world? How many priests have you ever even heard say the word slavery? Say how inherently wrong it is and how we should constantly reject coercion in our at work in our lives and stop trying to coerce other people. No, they want to teach a false version of morality that has to do with preferences, okay, with what I may or not find distasteful to my personal lifestyle. That's what they're trying to teach people as morality, not what's actually harming somebody because it's coercive. For example, consensual homosexual sex doesn't harm the two people that are involved in it, or more than two people that may be involved in it, as long as it's consensual. There's no coercion involved. I may find that distasteful because I'm heterosexual and that's not my sexual preference, but is that a moral right for people to engage in activity like that? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I don't care who's offended by hearing somebody say that. Okay? Nobody's actively being harmed in that process. Now, if one man rapes another man, that's a homosexual act that is also immoral because coercion was involved and the taking of someone else's free will right to sexually associate with whom they choose according to their own free will was removed from that person by violence. Violence took place. Therefore, harm took place. Therefore, it's immoral and wrong. Okay? So, this notion that, this person is snorting cocaine. Is that morally wrong, or is that a moral right for somebody to do that? Well, I would absolutely say it's a moral right. Okay? You're putting a substance into your own body. Is that your own property? Yes, it is. You own your own body. Nobody else owns your body, so nobody can tell you what you can and can't put into it. You could say, I feel that's a wrong, a bad choice. I find it distasteful. I personally, myself, actually speaking for myself, I've never snorted any cocaine in my entire life. Not one even small amount. I've never ingested anything through my nasal passages, snorting it. I have an avulsion to it. I also have an avulsion to needles. I've never injected any drug into my body. Okay, it's aside from since I type an autoimmune form of diabetes that I have, type 1.5 or LADA diabetes. I, of course, from time to time have to take insulin injections, but I'm talking about like a street drug like heroin or something of that nature. I feel like maybe I had such a powerful experience with possibly putting myself through living hell on earth through drugs in a past life, possibly in a past incarnation, but I learned that lesson a long time ago, and I just don't engage in those activities because not because I necessarily find them so distasteful, but because I think that that's an unnecessary experience for me to go through. And I don't want to put myself through that because I feel that degrades consciousness, and I want my consciousness to expand and move forward. But that doesn't mean that if somebody else wants to snort a line of cocaine, that isn't their absolute right to do so. I may find it revulsive. Even the thought of heavily snorting something up into the nasal passages kind of grosses me out. I don't say you shouldn't do that. I'd say you shouldn't abuse it and, burn your brain on it or really hurt your anatomy by overdoing it, as you could do with overdoing anything. But is it your right to actually engage in that behavior by ingesting a substance? Yes, it is, because it's your body. It's your property. You can put what you want in your property because you own it. It's yours. And this is what so many people blur the line with morality and don't understand. It's not about what you find distasteful or tasteful. It's not about your preferences. It's about whether harm is caused from one person to another. Are you actively causing harm to another person by drinking a glass of alcohol? Well, some people find that distasteful and it's against their religious beliefs. Well, whatever. It's against your religious beliefs. It doesn't mean it's immoral. Okay? This is where religionists have gone down this, path of non-understanding of natural law. They think morality equates with their likes, whims, and preferences, and that's not what morality is. That's actually moral relativism. That's not really understanding the difference between right and wrong through understanding what actions are actively causing harm to other people. Okay? That's saying what I like is right and what I don't like is wrong. Well, that's the same thing dominators do. That's the same thing psychopaths do. That's the same thing people who believe that they're the owners of slaves do. My word is law. That has nothing to do with morality. That has nothing to do with conscience. That has nothing to do with true religion. It has nothing to do with truth or natural law. So I was sidetracked by going down this path of looking at where are all these religionists? Where are all these New Agers and actively really changing the world? No, they say be an observer, never get involved. Largely, not a blanket statement, but largely these are inactive people because they're all trapped in the left brain. And then largely people doing a lot of government-funded science, they're doing harm through putting out coercive and controlling technologies and technologies that harm the earth. People involved in government are always doing harm because it's all coercion. So that's always wrongdoing, okay? People in the monetary industry, in the monetary field, through fractional reserve banking, constantly doing harm, indirectly taking people's property, okay? People in the IRS, government institutions, military, going in and confiscating the resources of other nations, other peoples, oppressing other peoples. People in the police force, just willfully following the orders of other people, thinking, and the idiots out there thinking that order following is some kind of a virtue. What I'm trying to get at is all of these people are actively doing harm or actively being passive. If they're in the left brain religions, they're actively doing harm. If they're in the right brain religions, they're actively being passive. If they're involved in the monetary system, they're doing both.
I am your host this evening, Bob from Cincinnati, and I welcome you yet again to another episode of Occult Empire. This is Occult Empire episode 13, a very interesting number. This is the follow-up episode of Occult Empire, episode 12, of course, which was Alchemy 2, part 1, which had our good friend, mentor, and guest, Mark Passio of whatonearthishappening.com. We were very ungraciously and unceremoniously, both of us, kicked off the air. And we're back to finish this show regardless of what anybody or any force wants to think. And, last night was Walpurgisnacht, which is the witches' celebration. So maybe some dark witches were celebrating a little too much. And we ended up off the air, which was a little depressing. But Mark has graciously come back the next day on May 1st, May Day, which is the end of the season of sacrifice, as Mark has painted it. And I'm not going to beat it too hard, but like I said, this is Alchemy Part 2, Alchemy 2, Part 2. And Passio has come back, and I'm going to bring Passio on the line here so that we can get right down to business. So if you need to grab that quick cup of coffee, grab it, and let's get into this thing. Let's find out what the true great work is, what it really is, and how to do it. The warm spring sun fills the hall of Occult Empire, and the good friend and mentor, Mark Passio, remains in the hall, and he will continue to speak with us. Mark, thank you so much for taking your valuable time to continue Alchemy 2. This is Part 2, the true great work, what it is, and how to do it.
Well, thanks for inviting me back, Bob, and nothing is going to dissuade us from getting this information out there to people. So they could try to kick us off the air, and we'll keep doing this over and over again if we have to. So we're going to use the continued willpower, persistence. That's what the great work is ultimately all about, and getting the word out there to others. So nothing short of taking me out of the physical domain is going to stop me from speaking the truth into existence.
Yes, sir.
So let's continue on. Okay. I had left off, before we were so ungraciously booted off the network last night, I had left off talking about religionists and how they're really not stepping up to the game. They're really not coming forward and talking about real morality. They're not talking about aligning our behaviors to natural law, to moral law. What they ultimately do is align themselves with preferences. And they're telling people that morality is all about, aligning themselves with things that they find preferential or they find prudent, but they don't make the distinction about whether an action is actually harmful or not. And that's what makes an action either in alignment with natural law or not. And this is what many religionists do not do. So they are incapable of actually performing anything that resembles the great work because they don't know natural law itself. And that's what most religion is designed to do. It's designed to keep people back from an understanding of natural law. That's why it is a false religion. And this, of course, includes the New Age movement, which tells people all kinds of deceptions and propagates all kinds of deceptions by rote about spiritual teachings that, may have originally been taught in their fullness or in their true essence, but over time they've been diluted and basically propagated by rote in their diluted, deceptive form, and people have grafted onto that, and the New Age has become a huge religion. The New Age movement has become a huge religion that is propagating a lot of spiritual deceptions as a result. One of the biggest things that they propagate is a lack of understanding of what the great work is. And they don't understand, the New Agers, that the great work is the requirement for a quantum shift in consciousness. The great work is what is going to make a quantum shift in consciousness occur. Okay? Effort is going to be required to do that. People in the New Age communities often think that a shift in consciousness is guaranteed or assured. And I'm here to tell you that it is absolutely not assured. There are requirements for it to occur, okay? And the shift in consciousness that we're looking for is also required if humanity is going to become free and is going to break its shackles and free itself from its self-imposed state of slavery. So for that change, that process of transformation and change to occur, effort must be expended. Effort must be used. Willpower must be used. Persistence must be used. It's not going to happen on its own. It's not an automatic process that is just taking place, like a natural series of events. It's something that has to be driven by free will. Okay, it's not happening like the organization of a galaxy that is being driven by creation itself. We can stay in this state of inertia that we're currently at. We can stay in the state of slavery. The slavery can get worse. Okay, it can become more total. It's not a guaranteed thing for consciousness to change for the better. The people who think like this are engaged in magical thinking. It's called wishful magical thinking. Okay? The universe is not just automatically making this happen. We have to make the shift in consciousness on Earth occur. Okay? And whether or not it will occur is a function of just that word that I've just stated there. It's a function of will. Whether it will or will not occur is a function of the human will. It's a function of the human will to understand the truth about natural law and then make the willful conscious choice to teach that information to as many people as you recognize are still in ignorance of that information. Okay, so that work requires enormous effort. It requires enormous dedication. It requires enormous courage, and it requires enormous persistence. It is something that has to be, you have to use your own personal will and force constantly. Again, in alchemy, one of the main mantras or sayings and inscriptions that you find in alchemical woodcuttings and symbolism was labore et constantia, work and constant effort, constancy, okay? That has to be kept in mind. That's what the great work is. It's, again, as I said, it's not really about having fun and following bliss, as New Agers would have you believe life is all about. I'm not telling anybody that those aren't important aspects to life. I'm not saying you should never experience happiness, okay? I'm saying that that's not what the great work is. What will follow the great work, the kind of fulfillment that we will receive after completing the great work will be bliss, peace, happiness, etc. Okay? That's the result. That's the payoff, if you will. All right? So a quantum shift in consciousness has requirements. Okay, it's not an automatic process. We have to get to a tipping point that many have called critical mass. All right, that's what the great work is going to accomplish. That's what it's going to do. It's going to take humanity to that point. And again, quantum shift, the word quantum comes from Latin. It means, it's the same in English as it is in Latin. In quantum, the word means amount. Okay, quantum means amount in the Latin language. So in order for natural law to be truly understood by the mass bulk of humanity, which is what a quantum shift in consciousness requires, we have to tip those scales in the direction of knowledge, in the direction of understanding, in the direction of wisdom, which is exercising conscience in accordance with morality and right. Okay? So that process is about reaching out to other people. Once you have done your internal transformative work upon yourself and you have aligned your behavior to natural law principles, it is about speaking to others. I say all the time, the universe is spoken into existence. The great work is actually an act of speaking and reaching out to other people. That is a form of action. It is doing something. It is reaching others' mind. It is helping to transform their worldview. It is putting them onto a positive information stream by, recommending resources and talking to them constantly. Okay? It's not about saying, well, I know what's going on and this person doesn't, so it doesn't make a difference that they're still ignorant. Of course it makes a difference. They're contributing to the overall dynamic of consciousness in the world, which is affecting you and everyone else. We are all connected. That's what the understanding of unity consciousness is about. It's not about saying everybody's at the same level of consciousness. They're certainly not, and it's our job to help elevate them to a higher level of consciousness because we are all connected. And as the bulk of society goes, the aggregate quality of consciousness goes, all beings are going to be in that situation, not just some. It's not going to be a big splitting, as I said on the last show, that some people are going to experience the negative consequences, and then the people who get it are going to be somehow insulated from them, and they're going to, receive cosmic justice. We're all going to receive cosmic justice. Yes.
Thanks, Mark. About these New Agers, they're very quick to point out we're all one. We're all one. We're all one. And, of course, when you get to the deep truth of it, that is truth. There is truth in that. But when it comes down to influencing or interfacing with their fellow men and women on this planet, they have no interest whatsoever of being all one.
That's right. And the bottom line is they couldn't even do that part of the great work because they don't know natural law themselves, because the New Age movement is all about keeping people back from a deep, definitive understanding of the objective difference between right and wrong behaviors. I constantly see New Agers who are completely ensconced in moral relativism. I mean, somebody refused a friend on Facebook recommended my natural law seminar to some New Age individuals. And they refuse to watch it because they say that they refuse to accept that there is some objective standard of morality in existence. That anybody saying that is trying to drive wedges between people and put themselves up on some kind of a moral pedestal, which has nothing to do with what I'm explaining to people regarding natural law. Okay, it's not about driving wedges between people. It's about explaining laws that are in operation in the universe that we are all bound by. And the New Age community does not want to understand or accept this. In many ways, they're similar in that regard to scientism followers that don't want to believe that we're bound by moral law. It's actually amazing how they take on some of the qualities of the left brain imbalance in their full state of right brain imbalance. So, you see how brain imbalance works to ultimately hold back the understanding of natural law from people, and that's what all religions are deliberately designed to do. So, again, this quantum shift that we're looking for has requirements, and we have to understand aggregate quality of behavior, not individuated quality of behavior. Of course, that's important. That's what creates and shapes the aggregate quality. but our individual behavioral choices, whether they are either in harmony with natural law or they are in opposition to natural law, they ultimately come together and they combine in an aggregate effect throughout all of society. And in the aggregate, these behavioral choices influence the quality of the entire manifested shared human experience. That's what all of these behavioral choices that we're putting into effect in the world are doing. When that happens, that dynamic that is taking place is a reflection of the principle of correspondence. That which is below is like to that which is above. That which is above is like to that which is below. In other words, the whole society is going to be going in the direction, is going to be receiving the effect karmically, according to natural law, what we as individuated units of consciousness, as individuals, are putting out into the world through our behavior. So contrary to this New Age view, for a quantum shift in the overall effect, the overall manifested result to take place, you have to get a lot of the people of a society, actually the majority of the people of a society, to change the way they think and therefore subsequently change the way they behave. Numbers are required to do this. It's not going to take a small amount of people. It's going to take the majority of people. I would say the absolute minimum is going to be over half. And I would say you're probably still not going to get it done with even that number. I'm going to say 2/3 is to me, if I'm going to offer a educated guesstimate, is the number that you're going to see a quantum shift, a critical mass shift begin to take place if we have 2/3 of humanity who are fully living natural law in their lives on a day-to-day basis and understand it deeply and are speaking it to everyone else around them. Then we'll shift over the remaining 1/3. Okay? That's what it's going to take in my guesstimate there. Okay? I'm not saying that's an exact number, okay, an exact figure, but it's certainly going to be over 1/2. That I will definitively state and guarantee. Without over at least 1/2 of human beings deeply understanding natural law, don't expect this world to change for the better. Okay? And then those half are going to have to continuously work on the other half. It's not going to just be, again, a magic automatic process that's going to just happen overnight. This is going to require time, dedication, effort, and patience and persistence. Okay? So that's why it's called a quantum shift. Numbers are required. A quantum means an amount of something. A certain amount of consciousness is going to have to change. So this is the true great work, to influence that change to occur. That's what alchemy is all about. It's the vehicle of magic. Magic is to influence change in accordance with the greater will. That's the definition of magic. The true great work can only be performed by any given individual after they themselves have already recognized the truth about natural law and are actually aligning their own behaviors to it in their life. It can't be begun until that is done. That's when the true work, great work begins. It's what comes after that process of internal self-transformation. Then you're going to start to go to work on others. And again, you can't do it for them. You can be an influencer of that change by what you do and by what you speak to others. That's what an alchemist is. It's an assistant in the great work. An assistant in the great work is done by each individual ultimately. Okay, at the very base level, at the final level, okay, the last word when it comes to this is the great work is performed upon the self, the true great work. That's how the process of transformation occurs within human consciousness. But the people who I say are doing the great work, okay, are influencing that change to occur within each individual by speaking the truth to everyone around them. And they've already influenced that change in themselves. They've already gone through that process of transformation. The great work is the arduous task. The true great work is the arduous task of influencing other people, other individuals, to go through the very same process of transformation in consciousness that you have gone through. And by transformation, of course, I mean for the better, in evolutionary progress forward. It is to help other individuals. Now, the great work, the true great work, is the process of helping other individuals to realize that they have been supporting and condoning false religions, namely authority vested in man, government or man's law, which is in opposition to natural law, and the monetary system, scientism as a religion, etc. Okay, it's to help people to recognize definitively that they have been actually supporting and condoning false religion that has been holding people back from a deep understanding of natural law, of moral law, from a deep understanding of the definitive difference between right and wrong behaviors. And therefore, what they have been doing in helping to prop up these false religions is they have been supporting and condoning the legitimacy of slavery on this planet. And that by doing that, by propping up those false religions, they have actually been engaged in immoral action. Now, think about the difficulty in what I have just laid out there. I'm not ever trying to tell anybody that this is easy work to do. It is the hardest work in the world to do. It's why so few people want to do it. Okay? You by the very definition of this work, what you are doing, what it comes down to, is that you are trying to influence other individuals to abandon their false religions that they have taken in and accepted and stay in a calcified mind state, stay completely emotionally and psychologically attached to. That is the hardest work that there is to do. Okay? You are trying to convince them that their false and dogmatic belief systems, which comprise these false religions, which we spoke of in part 1, are holding back the progress of human consciousness, and they are impeding the reception of the truth about natural law principles. That is what the great work is, in short. Okay? It is about making the ignorance, the darkness in other people conscious by shining a light on the things in this world that are holding us back from forward progress in consciousness, so that other people can see, this is holding me back from where I myself am saying I want to go and where my species is saying that they want to go. Okay? In the aggregate. You have to get them to see the negative by shining a light on it. And again, that's the most highly unpopular work. People are loath to do it. They don't want to get involved because of how much effort is going to be involved in this work. And they most of all don't want to get involved because of the type of conflict that is going to arise. This isn't going to be something that happens with everybody just being on the same page and, feeling good about it. It's going to create conflict amongst people. It is going to create uncomfortable feelings amongst people. It's not something that's just going to be done and, everybody loves you for doing it. That's not how the great work works. Okay? You are going to probably be hated and despised until the aggregate consciousness comes around to seeing the truth about what you're saying. Okay? Just as other past teachers of consciousness and deep mystery traditions have been hated, loathed, despised, and even murdered as a result of trying to propagate this knowledge. It's not something people love you for because you're telling them what they have been engaged in all of their life is immoral and wrong. And it's been harming others. See, it's this negative apophatic pathway to truth. It isn't about telling people what they need to do. It's about telling people what they need to stop doing. Very in opposition and in contrast to what the New Age community wants to insist is the way you educate human beings. Okay? By telling them it's all love and light, it's all good feelings, it's all about following bliss, and there's never really anything wrong. You're never really doing anything wrong. You're right where you should be. Utter bull. There are people who are not where they should be. Okay? And yes, there is a place we should be. It's called not doing violence to other people or condoning it. Okay? Through these false religious systems like authority and money and government. Okay? And the right-brain religions just ignore all of these evils and propagate, their nonsense. They want to stay out of any conflict. They want to stay out of rocking the boat. No, they don't want to rock the boat because they're cowards. Let's just say it how it really is. They can't do the great work because they don't have the courage to do it. That's the bottom line when it comes to this. The people who are all right-brain imbalanced are cowards. They don't want to take any real-world hard action, okay? Because that might require getting up in somebody else's face and calling them on their bullshit. And they don't want to do that. They don't want to be involved in that. No. They want to tell everybody, it's all okay and you're right where you need to be. Utter, sheer nonsense. All right? So I'd like to read a quote from the Bible, actually. These are words that are attributed to Jesus in the book of Matthew chapter 10. And again, please, people who are listening, I don't need to hear from people, Jesus wasn't an actual historical man, okay? I get astrotheology in its fullness. I could write books on astrotheology, okay? I've covered astrotheology pretty in-depth on my own radio show, and I understand the debate about the historicity of the man in the biblical text in the New Testament. And I don't care. It's not what I'm talking about, whether he was a real individual or not. I'm talking about the words that are ascribed to this figure, whether he's actually an actual historical figure or not. And I'm talking about the importance of the teaching contained in the words. So that's all I'm talking about when I'm explaining this quote. This, to me, describes exactly what the great work is. The words attributed to Jesus are as follows, quote, "Do not suppose that I have come to bring peace to the earth. I did not come to bring peace to the earth, but a sword. For I have come to turn a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's enemies will be the members of his own household. Anyone who loves his father more than me is not worthy of me. Anyone who loves his son or daughter of me is not worthy of me. And anyone who does not take up his cross and follow me is not worthy of me. Whoever finds his life will lose it, and whoever loses his life for my sake will find it." This describes the great work. The great work is about the truth. Okay? Jesus, in this allegorical paragraph here, is representative of the truth, the way to be in the world, the light of knowledge, the light of understanding, the light of wisdom. Okay? So he's explaining to people, this form of consciousness, the Christed consciousness, is not here on the earth to make everybody feel pacified. It's not here to calm everybody down. It's here to shake things up. It's here to actually drive a wedge and create conflict between the people who are doing evil and the people who are trying to explain that it is unacceptable for them to continue to do evil, and we are not going to tolerate this anymore. We are not going to take this bullshit anymore. Okay? So he's saying he's coming to turn family members. This form of consciousness is coming to turn family members against each other. Literally. Okay? Because you have to keep bringing the truth up in the face of other people persistently, with will, with force, into their attention, without allowing them to escape from it. Not by tying them down into a chair, not by locking them up in a room, but by forcefully speaking the truth out in the world every single day of your existence to anyone, whether you think they're ready to hear it or not, because they need to hear it, because they are actively involved in supporting and condoning false religions which cause harm to other individuals. And as long as they do that, the overall dynamic of the consciousness on this planet is going to degrade ever deeper into slavery and bondage. So, the concept here in this piece of writing is the Christ consciousness is here to shake things up and wake people up. It isn't here to placate people. It isn't here to say, it's okay, you're right where you need to be. Don't worry about all these harmful actions you're doing or condoning. Just keep doing them, and I'll back off, and I won't say a thing. I won't make you feel upset about that. Okay? And people will say, oh, you're just trying to guilt people. Well, guilt is an emotion that is to be felt. See, the New Age community wants to ignore all negative emotion, as if there is no role for it, as if there is no reason that negative emotions exist. They are a compass for direction. They're there when you're going in the wrong direction to feel these negative emotions and say, I shouldn't be going in this direction. This is the direction of involution, the opposite of evolutionary progression in consciousness. This is the direction of entropy and chaos and discord. Okay? It's the negative emotions are there to be felt when you're heading in that direction to say, I'm going in the wrong direction. I feel this definitively. And that's my compass. It's saying, there's true north. You need to turn around 180 degrees. You need to go that way. That's what the negative emotions are for, not to be ignored because you don't like feeling them. You don't like feeling them. Well, tough if you don't like feeling them. Maybe you would stop not liking the feeling, okay, if you actually turned your life around and did the right thing and stopped doing the wrong thing, let's just say. Okay? That's what the emotions are for. When you're doing the wrong thing, they're there to tell you, idiot, you're doing the wrong thing. Know yourself, know the difference between right and wrong. You won't be an idiot anymore, which is what idiot means, one who does not know the self. Okay? And then you'll turn your behavior around and your life will turn around. Then you'll be heading in the right direction toward evolutionary progress in consciousness for the better. That's what the negative emotions are there to be felt for. And among them is guilt. And among them is anger. Okay? Righteous indignation motivates us to do the right thing in our life, to speak out against tyranny, to speak out against injustice, to speak out against everybody else who is breaking natural law in their lives and causing harm to others. That's what that is there for. That's what those seemingly negative, quote-unquote, emotions are there for. They're not negative. They're there for a reason. So in doing this work and in speaking to others, we're going to be battling true demons that are inside other people. I like to say to people, you don't have an ego. The ego has you. There's only one ego. The ego has all of us. Okay? We are there to escape this force called the ego run amok, run rampant. The ego isn't just a sense of I, of individual, of your individuated consciousness as being distinct from other individuated consciousnesses. That's not what ego is. I'm talking about real, deeply seated, calcified ego identification. Okay? People in the New Age community often want to think ego needs to be eradicated completely. Ego is how you interoperate in the three-dimensional realm. It doesn't need to be eradicated completely. It needs to be tempered such that you don't think that you're God here and you can do whatever you want unchallenged without any consequences to your behavior. That's somebody who's deeply seated in ego attachment. So egos that are hardened into what I call negative knowledge. That means not only don't they know the real principles at work around them, the real truth of the natural laws at work around them, they are convinced of absolute lies and have taken those lies into themselves and built fundamental axioms or systems of belief upon those lies. Their systems of belief are built on top of lies, and everything they're building in their lives is built on top of those fundamentally flawed axioms, those fundamentally untrue axioms. That's what I call negative knowledge. Okay? You can't possibly build any firm foundation for life, for living, because you're already building upon unsafe ground, uneven, degraded ground. The foundation is fundamentally broken. Okay? You try to build a structure on top of that, good luck, because all you're going to have is an unsound, unstable structure. And then you're going to be living in that structure, and your life is going to be chaos as a result. This is what I call negative knowledge. You have to work toward undoing this by getting people to first abandon them. They can never accept the truth until they abandon their false beliefs. The cup needs to be made empty. See, that's what the New Age doesn't want to do with people. Okay? It doesn't want to say, this is wrong to people. What you believe is wrong. It says that's a no-no. Never ever do that. That's negative. People don't want to hear that. Well, again, tough titty that people don't want to hear that. Okay? That's just too damn tough, isn't it? Okay? You know, the whole point here is these people are like children. They're like children. Never tell anybody anything that they're doing is negative. I mean, what the hell kind of sense does that make?
I'm so tired.
It's okay. Yeah.
I'm tired of your duality, Mark, the idea that you can think of good things and bad things. That's such dualistic thinking.
Yeah.
They are so skewed in their concept of what duality is in our reality here. It's laughable.
It is. Yeah. Hey, Bob, don't you know doing absolute works of evil are just as they're indistinguishable from actually following natural law and not harming others? You know,
it's an experience.
You're being judgmental, man.
Man,
it's judgmental.
It's just an experience, man. There's evildoers, you know, like you said, Mark. I hate to be coarse here, but I will. If ladies and gentlemen, you think an organized rape room for a young person below the age of 7, and this is a coordinated reality, ladies and gentlemen, don't fool yourselves. Wake up. If you think that that's just an experience, you're wrong.
That's
right.
You
better look in the mirror and think about what you're speaking.
Right.
This is reality here. There is evil, period. Right. Sorry, Mark.
No, you're absolutely right, Bob. You know, these people who want to take on this view that it's just an experience, they have an absolutely distorted sense of karmic consequences and natural law consequences. They don't understand how it works. You know, they think somehow that children is being paid back for karmic debt that they accrued in a past life, and so you're just going to let rapists harm little children. Yeah, that's a great plan. It's going to lead to such a better world, you know? No, they don't want to get involved because they're cowards. Again, let's just call it just like it is. These right-brained and balanced people who don't speak up against evil in the world are just plain and simple cowards who have never developed true inner courage. Okay? So negative knowledge is the illusion of knowledge. It's even worse than ignorance. It's thinking that you know, thinking that you've been spiritually enlightened when nothing of this kind has occurred. And this is what many people in the New Age movement are in. That's the state of consciousness that they're in. They are under the illusion that they have knowledge about how the universe really works, when in fact they've been taught a bunch of bunk lies and deceptions that they've grafted onto, and now they're even deeper in ignorance because not only don't they know how it works, they've accepted a fundamentally flawed axiom about how it does work. Okay? Very difficult state of mind to break. Scientism is the same way. You know, entrenched scientific paradigms that aren't true are very attached to. Again, this is all about ego attachment. The great work is about breaking down the ego attachment to things that are wrong, that are incorrect, that are doing harm. I can't state that enough. That's what this work is about. It is a negative process of destruction. The great work is a process of destruction. It destroys the lies. It destroys the deceptions. It destroys the calcified ego that has taken humanity as prisoner. It is a destructive process, and that's why so many people are afraid of it and don't want to get involved in it. Okay? It's fear that holds people back from the doing of the great work. Fear is the force that is holding us back from getting involved in this task. Okay? And also not wanting personal responsibility. You know, the fear of, if I start telling this to other people, you know, what are they going to say? You know, they're going to look at me like I'm trying to, tell them how they're living their lives is wrong. You know, if I feared that, I would have never started doing what I'm doing. I would have never started speaking out. Okay? If I worried about what other people think of me. I don't care what other people think of me. I care about the truth, about what's taking place on this planet. And I care about trying to change it for the better, because that's within the will of creation. The will of creation is for all forms of consciousness to move forward in their evolutionary progression and evolve to greater states of complexity and understanding and awareness. So that's the work I'm going to align myself with doing, regardless of what anyone thinks of it. I don't care what all the other individuated units of consciousness here, called other people, think about what I'm doing. All I care about is it in accordance and alignment with truth, and is it going to move consciousness forward? That's it. That's what I care about. So the New Age community and other people who hate the great work, they're going to say, well, if the situation's unpleasant, I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to see these unpleasantries, and I certainly don't want to tell others about this stuff that's going on. We'll just ignore it. That'll make it go away. Great plan. Real great plan. It works so well when it comes to internal diseases in the body, chronic diseases. You ignore those. It's awesome when you ignore them because they just go away magically on their own, If you actually try to see what's going on and make a diagnosis and then try to actually bring it to a state of balance by stopping doing the thing that brought it to a state of imbalance and then using positive input to basically help to heal it, that's putting your attention on something that was negative to begin with, and that's going to make it worse. This is how flawed the thinking of the New Age movement is, like putting attention on something that's negative is going to make it worse. No, that's going to make you understand it. Therefore, you're going to be knowledgeable about the causal factors. When you're knowledgeable about the causal factors, you recognize what led to this condition. And in that diagnosis, then you can bring balance to that condition and heal it. That's how any healing occurs. It's not just wishful thinking. Okay? I don't want this to be present, so I'll ignore it and it'll go away. And therefore, I've created something positive. You're going to assure in ignorance, absolutely assure that any negative situation continues when you remain ignorant of it. Okay? So we're battling this force called emotional mind control, that people want to ignore what is unpleasant to them. Okay? The other part of emotional mind control that we're battling in doing the great work is that people want to hear things the way they want to hear them. They hate approaches that don't emotionally make them feel good. So see, I'm one of these people. I don't emotionally make people feel good because I hit them with hardcore truth about the consequences of their behavior. That usually doesn't make anybody feel good, most of all myself. When I had to start looking at this information, it wasn't positive to me. My behavior was out of alignment with natural laws, out of alignment with, truth regarding spiritual principles. I had to say to myself, what I'm doing is negative. It's contributing to negativity. It's contributing to harm. And I need to back off from those behaviors and stop doing them. That wasn't a process that made me feel great emotionally. After I finally aligned my action with natural law, I felt better. Because then the karmic debt that I had already been accruing in my life started diminishing, and my life improved as a result. That's how natural law functions. So people will say, if it's phrased this way, or if it's worded this way, or if it has this kind of a tone to it, I don't want to hear that. And also, it can't be true. This is why, again, people... friends of mine, let's say on a social network like Facebook, that are trying to share my natural law seminar, or most of all my New Age bullshit seminar, okay, which I just released from Asheville. They're trying to share the seminar, and New Agers are coming back onto the thread and saying, I don't like the title. That title is so nasty. I'm not going to watch something that's called New Age bullshit. Why doesn't he name it something more pleasant? Well, again, you're ignoring something. You're ignoring the deep spiritual insight that is contained in that seminar just because your emotional sensitivity is avulsed to the title? How egocentric is that? I don't like the title. So what's in there can't be of any consequence, can't be of any truth, can't possibly enlighten me to any greater degree. Imagine this kind of thinking. Imagine that's judging a book by the cover. You want to talk about a wrong form of judgment. We all need to exercise judgment and discernment to decide what's better for us. What should we be doing and what should we not be doing? That's true judgment and discernment. When you judge a book by its cover and say, well, that looks negative to me, I'm not going to pay attention to any of that. I don't like the tone this guy is taking. He's being abrasive and accusatory, saying we're doing things that are wrong. Doesn't make a difference whether it's true or not. That's just, I don't like your tone. Imagine this. It's like saying, again, I liken it to, you have the hot newscaster, okay, that looks like some kind of a model, right? She's on the 5 o'clock news spouting utter lies openly because she's paid to do it. You have this correspondent, okay, the media whore. And it doesn't make a difference. It's not a sexist comment. Men are media whores too. Believe me, ladies and gentlemen, there's plenty of those too, okay? You have the prostitutes, as someone like Gerald Celente likes to call them, okay? I love the term because it so accurately states what they are. Prostitutes and correspondents. They're paid whores for publicly lying to people for a paycheck. That's what they're deliberately doing. And many of them in full awareness and full knowledge. Not all of them, but many of them. Okay? They'll come on the television screen and feed you a bunch of absolute bullcrap. Okay? For a paycheck. And they'll tell you right to your face, 2 + 2 = 5, boys and girls. We don't care whether it isn't true. We're going to lie directly to your face. But we'll do it in a pleasing voice. 2 + 2 = 5. That's the news for tonight. We'll see you at 11, And people will accept this utter bunk nonsense just because it's told to them in sweet, pleasing tones. Oh, what a nicely dressed individual. Oh, that guy who reads the 6 o'clock news. Boy, what a great voice he's got, huh? He speaks so nice and pleasant. He's got such nice hair. He's wearing that beautiful Italian tailored 3-piece suit. What a great guy. I trust everything he says. Yeah. It's real intelligent. Yeah. Okay? So they'll tell you 2 + 2 = 5, lying to your face. And people will accept it because they're appealing to their emotions, appealing to their perception. We're going to put the people who look the best up there. We're going to put the people who sound the best up there. We're going to put the people who speak in neuro-linguistic programming. We're going to totally appeal to your emotional sensibilities by sweet, pleasing voices and gestures. Yeah. It doesn't make a damn bit of difference whether it's true or not to people. They just want to hear it the way they want to hear it. You could tell them absolute nonsense lies, but if it's sweet and pleasing to the ear and to the eye, then fine. Let's take it all in. Let's shovel it down the gullet as fast as possible. We need a funnel and a hose to get it down the gullet fast enough. Okay? Because a fork and a knife and a spoon aren't working fast enough. To shovel that horse crap down the throat.
It is sick naivete on their parts that only truth can be packaged as a glitzy, something pleasant, honey in the ear, so to speak. But that's just it. The lie has been so carefully crafted, and the dissociation of their compartmentalized world and the recourse of what happens in natural law, their end result of what they're doing, and that it's shameful, but it's sad. It's so sick. I can't believe adults can act like this and say, well, I don't like what I'm hearing, how I'm hearing the style, so I refuse to listen to it. Somebody said that offends.
And that's the thing, Bob. They're not adults. They're children. They are stunted development individuals. They have never really truly emotionally or psychologically grown up into adulthood, into true adulthood. They are children. Go ahead, continue what you were saying.
Oh, no, my friend. I just wanted to point out that it's sad that we have to deal. I remember years ago when one of the first shows that you ever came on here on Occult Empire, I took a moment to say, Mark, I can't believe you're running into people like this. But my God, over the last quarter decade, I have run into these people now myself because, like you said, once you begin to speak, once you begin to tell and assist in alchemical processing, which is basically you're the guy in those old woodcuts, Mark, that is keeping that fire burning with the person in the liquid in the pot, like they sit in a cauldron. You are the man who is speaking this, keeping that fire puffed, keeping that alchemical burning going. And
what I'm asking for is help from my alchemical brothers and sisters out there. We need more people doing the work. I cannot do it alone, nor with just the other help from the existing researchers in this field of knowledge. We need more assistance. We need more help. we're not too proud to ask for that.
Yes.
I'm not telling you this can be done by me alone or even just the people who are doing this work now. We cannot get it done ourselves. We need more help. We need more help. It is an impassioned plea. I am begging other people to get involved in the great work of speaking the truth to other people yourself. Okay?
Yes.
So this dynamic of emotional mind control, you have to dispel it. You have to realize yourself. You're going to be working people who are trapped in this form of mind control, and you have to understand it doesn't make a difference. And you need to communicate to them it doesn't make a difference. A lie, a well-dressed lie will always remain a lie. And a raw, naked truth will always remain a truth. It doesn't make a difference how you want to hear something. All that matters is whether it's true or not. It doesn't matter how it's presented. It doesn't matter how it's dressed up. That does not matter. The ego is what wants to think that matters. And if you think that way, you are trapped in the deep calcified ego identification. All that matters is whether something is true or not, because if you take it in and then you act upon it, if it wasn't true, you're going to create chaos. And if it was true, then you can create order and freedom. It doesn't make a difference how it was stated, how it was written. If it's true, it's true. If it's false, it remains false. So, the guy who sounds, emotional or even over the top, who's saying, this is true, you need to understand this, okay? Because you don't like the sound of his voice or maybe the way he dresses or looks or his delivery style, it doesn't make a difference. That is emotional mind control if you buy into that nonsense, that the way a message is delivered matters. All that matters is whether it is true or not. And oftentimes, truth comes in the form of belligerence for the reason that it is at war with mind control. It is at war with falsehood. It is at war with deception. This is a spiritual war that's going on through information that we take in or don't take in. Okay? Those are the charges in this war. Those are the bullets in this. Those are the bombs in this war. Okay? Fundamental truths, fundamental axioms that we do need to understand and incorporate and integrate into our lives. So people think in this state of mind that somehow we could ignore the messenger and we can ignore the message if somehow the message or the messenger is distasteful to us. It's all about our perception. It's all about our likes, our dislikes. This is insanity. It's literally a form of insanity. And what it really is will bring us to the next point. It's a form of being stunted. It's stunted psychological and emotional development. It's someone who is really stuck in emotional and psychological childhood, which is the real root causal factor of the human condition, is abandonment issues. Again, we look for the root cause of all the willful ignorance in the world. We'll get down to a deeper level where people don't want the responsibility that comes with knowledge. Well, why don't they want personal responsibility? It's because deep inside they have issues of self-loathing due to lack of self-respect. They've never really truly come to understand themselves through deep introspection and doing work with shadow material inside the subconscious mind, and therefore they've never truly built any true self-love or true self-respect. So they have self-loathing issues that prevent them from really truly growing up and taking on personal responsibility and then knowing the truth and doing something positive with that knowledge. And this all stems from childhood parental abandonment issues. And we have parental abandonment issues on a cosmic grand scale because of what happened in our human origins, which again that's another show altogether. That's many shows altogether. I'll be talking about that in depth on my future radio shows. I've already begun setting that up. But we have abandonment issues on a personal level and on a cosmic level as a species. And this is the root cause of the condition that we are in, which is willful ignorance that leads to slavery and chaos. So we have to understand that the real enemy is not even the cabals of sorcerers that are attempting to mind control people and put deception and methods of manipulation out there for other people to fall into those traps. They are, they are somebody who is impeding and slowing down the personal. They are groups that are impeding and slowing down the development of humanity. But I don't call them the real problem. or the real enemy in this spiritual war, if you will, okay? And take the word enemy with a grain of salt. I don't mean it means you're going to want to try to go out and kill these people or anything like that. It means that they're the ones who are ultimately working against the great work, okay, is the people who are still in super ignorance regarding natural law and what's going on. We don't need to focus all of our attention on the dark occultists. Okay, most of them are actually psychopaths that don't have the capacity to change. They're like, see, again, the understanding of psychopathy also has to come into the picture when we're talking about natural law. If you identify a primary psychopath, which again is also often difficult to identify, but if you identify someone who throughout their entire life has displayed the characteristics of a psychopath, even when they were a young child, so you would need to know a lot about their background to understand whether they were primary psychopathic or not. But a secondary psychopath can be reached and changed ultimately. It's extraordinarily difficult work, and I think humanity is partially secondarily psychopathic as a species, which is why we're in the situation that we're in and why the great work is going to be so difficult to accomplish. But the psychopaths, the real primary genetic psychopaths in positions of power and influence at the highest levels of social institutions and government, etc., they're not going to be changed by this information. All you can do right now with the propagation of primary psychopaths is mitigate their power and influence by leading truly moral existences. Then their influence becomes negligible and they are controlled, okay, by the very way that we choose to live, by not following their lifestyle or their worldview. Okay? So the primary psychopaths, we have to understand, we're not going to change them. So the great work is not going to be done upon primary psychopaths. It's going to be done upon the people who are currently ignorant of natural law who aren't primary psychopaths. This is the bulk of humanity, the asleep masses, the conditioned masses, the mind-controlled masses. That's who the great work needs to be focused upon. That's who I call the real target or the enemy that we're working against. Okay? The ego calcification that they are trapped in is the enemy. Don't look at it as the actual people are your enemy. Okay? Their essence is what we are looking to uncover and allow to shine through, because their current condition is not who they really are. It's not their true essence. There is a true being that lies beneath that is covered up by all this crap, all this deception, all these lies, all these fundamental untruths that they've taken into their mind and accepted as true and then have based their behavior upon. We need to get down to the core individual that really is there and help them to scrape away all these layers and these barriers to true self-realization. Okay? Once we do that, then the real essence of the being is going to shine through, and then they can start doing the great work too, among other people, okay, in regards to others. So we have to understand the real target of the great work of putting this truth out there is to the people who are completely asleep and have not begun this journey or this quest. It is our responsibility to reach out to those individuals, no matter how uncomfortable of a situation it creates for all. We have to go through that period of discomfort precisely because of how deep we are in this chaos, where we have allowed it to go by not doing the great work for so long. Okay? So truth itself, of course, can never really be taken out of the equation or destroyed. It's always here. It's up to us to align our perceptions to it. But humanity, if we refuse to pick up that truth, to defend it, and to do the great work of bringing the truth to other people by speaking it into the world, can go away. I started talking about this, in the last show. The outcome is not assured or guaranteed. We can extinct ourselves. We can go extinct based on where we're at in the not-too-distant future. The people who think that the quantum shift in consciousness is somehow assured are delusional and engaged in magical thinking. It is going to take the will to stand up and defend the truth against all these lies, against these attacks that try to hide the truth, dissuade people from looking into it. We need to be more forceful with our voice. That the universe is spoken into existence. I'll state that again. The universe is spoken into existence. This is an alchemical truth. It's a concept that we need to deeply understand and integrate into our lives. The people who are putting out the information with the loudest and most forceful voice wins. I'm sorry, that's very unpopular, but that's how it works. Why is evil winning? Because evil is continuously speaking its lie and deception into the world through the media. That's why evil is winning. That's why the worldview of evil is dominating. That's why the behaviors that evil propagates is winning and dominating. And people are engaged in them more and more. Truth is losing. Goodness is losing, okay, because we are not acting in our proper role as the vehicle for its propagation. The vehicle is for the propagation of the truth. The truth doesn't have a voice itself. It doesn't have a voice on its own. We need to be that voice. And when we speak, the universe is changed. When we speak, consciousness is changed. And therefore, action is changed for the better, and therefore the manifested result that we get in the aggregate society is changed for the better. This is how the great work is accomplished. And what it is going to take, once again, is enormous effort. It's going to take enormous knowledge, number one, about how these dynamics really work. You have to understand how they work, or you can't do the great work. Okay? So knowledge is required. Courage is required to step out of your shell about what other people think about you, because it's going to make many people feel uncomfortable. Persistence is required. It's not going to happen overnight. We are going to have to work at this constantly. Again, labore et constantia, work and constancy. Willpower is required in addition to courage. And true care is also going to be required. We have to care enough about making this change happen to motivate ourselves to go out and actually do it, instead of sitting on our asses and not speaking this truth to other people. So persistence is ultimately required. Care, knowledge, care, courage, and ultimately persistence. Okay? It is our responsibility at this time to help awaken others by continuously speaking the truth, even if we feel burdened by this task and even if it makes everybody involved feel uncomfortable. And believe me, I feel burdened by this task. I know it makes people feel uncomfortable. I'm going to speak it anyway, because it's the right thing to do, and it's the only thing that can change this reality is the deep understanding of natural law and how we have been living in complete opposition to it up to this point. So, do I feel burdened by this? Do I wish it wasn't necessary? Absolutely. Are you kidding me? I don't want to do this. I do not desire. Mark Passio, the individuated unit of consciousness that is a man living in South Philadelphia in 2014, does not want to do the great work. I do not want to be doing this with my time. I want to be enjoying my life. I want to be following my bliss. I'd like to become an artist at some point in the future. Probably not going to do that in this lifetime. Literally like drawing, painting, sketching, things like that. I think if I worked with it, I might be able to develop it. But I don't use my time for that. I like to pursue music. I used to be in bands in the past. I like singing. I would love to be in another band at some point. I may never pursue that because of the requirement of the great work. I've given up what I, Mark Passio, wants to do with his life, to do what is required to do, because that's what's driving everything. The will of creation wants us to move forward in our evolutionary progress and consciousness. I have aligned my life, my egoic aspect of my life, with that willpower, and therefore I'm not pursuing what I would like to do with my time. Okay? What I would personally like to do with my time is drastically different than what I am actually doing with my time. I have willfully made the decision not to pursue my egoic desires for what I want to do in my life, and I have instead exercised the moral obligation and personal responsibility to take on the great work. That's what it's going to take. Sacrifice. That's what true sacrifice is. And believe me, I'm not happy about it. Who says you have to be happy? Who says that the ultimate goal of life is happiness as an individual? We'll bring about true happiness as a species on this planet if we do the great work. That will be happiness, all capital letters. My egoic happiness in the moment isn't as important as putting the truth out into the world for other people to understand so we could change this planet and make it how it should be. And there is a way it should be. It's called without violence, without coercion, okay, for all beings. not even just human beings. So to go back to this idea that I am not directing my life in an egoic way for my egoic desires, okay, that's called making a true sacrifice and saying, I'm going to take time away from my life and what I would rather be doing to do this work because I recognize it is a moral obligation based on where consciousness is currently at in this world to do this work. Okay? That's why I do this. Not because I like it, not because I enjoy it. Believe me, I don't like it. I don't enjoy it. Okay? I'm going to continue to do it consciously, willfully, forcefully, because I recognize it must be done. But I would much rather be doing something else. And that is what I'm calling the application of true will. To consciously be able to say to yourself, while I myself would prefer not having to do this, I know that I must be doing it if consciousness is going to change. And that is what aligning ourselves with the higher will, all capital letters, is all about. So I really think that that's kind of what the great work entails. That I've described it in about as full of a way as I can possibly describe it. I'd like to talk about briefly where we're at as a species and where I see things going to wrap up in maybe the last half an hour or 20 minutes or so. We are in a state right now that is definitely slavery and is going to go into a form of hot slavery. And there's a reason it's going to go into hot, in-your-face, open slavery. We're in a state of covert slavery right now. Yes, it is slavery. It's ruled by coercion. It's ruled by duress. But most people can't even see it because of the soft form that it comes in. It's coming through the mind, the form of slavery. We are going to go back into physical slavery as a people, as a species. Physical shackled slavery. In-your-face slavery, like black slavery during the Civil War period in America, and worse, and possibly even worse than that, okay, because of the technologies that exist today. That is an assured outcome unless the great work is actively engaged by not hundreds of more people, not thousands of more people, not millions of more people, by hundreds of millions more people are going to be required. And ultimately, I would say billions of people, because I think it's going to take at least over half of humanity to be actively engaged in the great work to truly, fully change the consciousness of the other half. Okay? So unless we build those numbers of people who are doing this work, shackled slavery is on the not-too-distant horizon for the human species. It's going to leave the realm of covert, mind-control-based slavery, and it is going to go into the active, physical form of slavery, hot slavery, you might call it, okay? And there's a reason for that, and I want to explain the reason that must occur if we don't change, because we are no longer a nescient species. The information that we need to know regarding natural law has been given to the people of the earth by many different teachers. And that information is no longer concealed, kept hidden, and kept cut off from the human species, as it once was. It has been revealed. It has been put out into the open for all to see and understand. And now the universe is saying, is the information they need to know at their disposal? Is it there at their fingertips? And the answer is yes. What this means is that we have already undergone the time period that has been traditionally referred to as the apocalypse. The apocalypse is over. It has occurred. It has happened. And people hear that, they're like, well, everybody's still here. How could the apocalypse have occurred? Because the apocalypse does not mean destruction. It does not mean a huge cataclysm that wipes out life, as people seem to believe that it means. That's not what the word means. That's a connotatively derived meaning of the word, which isn't the true etymological definition of the word. The word apocalypse comes from two Greek root words. The prefix in Greek apo, A-P-O, spelled alpha, pi, omicron in Greek. When you tack that onto the beginning of a Greek word, it means away from, off of, removed from, or the negation of that term. That's what apo means. So to go away from or to remove from, okay? And then the second part of apocalypse is calypse, right? And calypse, the word part calypse from apocalypse comes from the Greek root word, the noun in Greek, calyptine. Calyptine, you would transliterate it in English, Calyptein, and in Greek it would be spelled kappa, alpha, lambda, upsilon, pi, tau, eta, iota, nu. Okay? So calyptine in Greek. This verb means to cover, to conceal, or to keep secret. Similar to occultare, which in Latin, which means to hide or to keep secret. So when we put these two together, calyptine means to cover or to veil or to keep secret, to keep hidden from sight. And apo means to go away from that condition, to remove something from that condition. When we put them together, it means to de-occult, to take something out of hiding, to uncover it, to unveil it, to bring it out of hiding and out into the open, to reveal it. The apocalypse simply means the revealing of that which has been hidden knowledge up to that point. Now that it is out in the open and it is known, it is no longer veiled or concealed, no longer calyptine, concealed. It is brought out into the light of day for all to see and understand. Hence, we have already gone through the revealing. Is the knowledge of natural law revealed? Not only by myself, but by many other people. Yes, it is. It has been. I'm not the first person to understand this. It has already been done. Now it's just being done on a mass scale, so nobody can say, I didn't have access to that. There was no way I could have possibly known that. Everyone now has access to it, through books, through the internet, through audio, through digital devices, through the web. Every single person on the earth. You could make the argument, well, there's some people that don't have internet in their communities in the third world. Okay, fine. I'm telling you, the vast majority of the people of this planet have access to this information in one form of media or the other. Hence, the great revealing has already occurred, and we are now living in post-apocalyptic times, the times after the great de-occulting or revealing of previously occulted knowledge. We are living in the post-apocalypse. And that is why judgment will follow. The judgment of nature will always follow the de-occulting period. Because now nature can say, do these individual units of consciousness that comprise this society called human beings on this planet called Earth, do they have the information that they need to change themselves? Is it still hidden and concealed from them? Is it still not available to be known? It doesn't ask, is it still not known by the majority? That answer is obvious. Of course it's still not known by the majority. Otherwise the planet wouldn't be the way it is. The question that the universe asks is, do they have access to the information they need to create the change that they need to create? And the answer is unequivocally, yes, we do. And we are ignoring it as a people. That's what brings the judgment of slavery and chaos and death and destruction down onto a society of any kind of a group of people. When the truth is present and it is willfully ignored, and we will not come to its defense to speak the truth into our existence through our voice because we lack the courage to do it, or we ourselves have ignored it. Now, the judgment of nature is going to come down upon the world as a result of that ignorance. Not nescience, not knowing because the information was absent or could not possibly be known. We have the capacity to know it, the capacity to understand it, and the information is present in our midst. And we have willfully chosen to ignore it as a society in the aggregate. Therefore, we are going to experience the negative consequences of that willful decision to ignore truth. If we reverse that decision and we say, I am sorry for willfully ignoring truth, we make an apology and say, I was wrong. The truth was there all along, and I willfully ignored it. Now I will desist in that behavior. I will take it into myself. I will pay attention to it. I will understand it. Then I will act upon it. I will stop doing the things that were wrong. I will begin doing behaviors that are only in alignment with the laws of morality. And then I will teach that to every other individual that I encounter, no matter whether they want to hear it or not. That is the great work. That is the only pathway to the salvation of the people on this planet, through the knowledge of truth. That is what the great work is, and that is what we must do. That is how we need to be doing it. To make that apology, transform ourselves, bring our behavior into alignment with natural law ourselves, and then speak that truth into existence. Because that is how the universe is changed and how it grows in consciousness. It grows through knowledge and through words, through vibratory energy. We speak the truth into existence to propagate it to others, to raise consciousness. That is what the great work is, and that is how to do it. And I think that's probably a decent place to let it be and to wrap up from there. So much greater numbers are required if we are going to effectively perform and succeed at the great work. The amount of alchemists, the amount of teachers, the amount of spiritually enlightened individuals who understand the information about natural law and are communicating it to other people is most certainly not sufficient enough to get this done. And again, I say definitively, I am not too proud to admit that. I cannot do this alone, nor can the people who currently understand this right now at the present time get this done, get this quantum shift to take place. We cannot do it ourselves. We need vast, greater numbers. And that is what this show is actually an appeal for. If you think you are spiritually awakened and understand how natural law works in our lives and how we are co-creating our reality as a people in the aggregate sense, whether we are bringing our behaviors into alignment with natural law and thus creating order and freedom, or we are continuing to enact behaviors that are in complete opposition to natural law and create chaos, disorder, and slavery. If you understand how that dynamic works, you have to get on the battlefield. You have to start communicating this to other people by whatever strengths you have to communicate that information to other people. And we could just briefly talk about, to wrap up, some of those required skill sets. You could do it in numerous ways. It doesn't have to be done exactly the way some other people have been doing it. We can have multifaceted approaches to it. Can you do it through music? Sure. Write songs about natural law. Somebody just sent me a phenomenal reggae song about natural law. Blew me away. All about bringing one's behaviors into accordance with the laws of morality. And good reggae music, like not just, average run-of-the-mill stuff, like really good structured stuff. Okay?
We'll look forward to hearing that on your show, Mark.
Yeah, I have to include it for my bumper music. I'm going to send it over to the network because I recently received it, and I had I think already sent some of the bumper music over there to the network. So I need to take that MP3 and definitely send it over to Republic Broadcasting so they can include it in my bumper music for sure. But you can make art, you could paint and incorporate allegories of natural law into what you paint. And I'd say do it pretty blatantly. Don't try to make it so veiled. This is the problem. People have made these allegories too veiled. We need to come out with more blatant allegories. Like, hey, the new Captain America film, for those who have or haven't seen it, it's such a blatant allegory. I mean, Captain America the Winter Soldier is such a blatant allegory for the Nazi infiltration of American intelligence agencies that I can't even if anybody comes out of there and doesn't understand what they were saying, that Nazis have infiltrated our culture at the highest levels, actual Nazis from World War II, who didn't give up their religious belief systems of Nazism, came over here through a Project Paperclip, Operation Paperclip, and infiltrated all the intelligence societies, infiltrated all of the military-industrial complex and the psychological societies as well, and the school systems. They were blatantly telling people that in the allegory Captain America the Winter Soldier. If people can watch that movie and not get it, I'm telling you, their brains are shut down. Their cognitive thinking abilities are completely shut down not to get that message from that movie. That's how blatant it was. We need to make more blatant allegories, yes.
Indeed. And I also want to comment on the term Winter Soldier. That's being used to obscure the soldiers that spoke out in the mid-2000s or around 2007, 2008. They spoke out against the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. Right. And the project was called Winter Soldier. And what they're trying to do is obfuscate that term in the search options, in the research options, so that people forget that soldiers publicly spoke out, U.S. soldiers, about the criminality they were engaged in Iraq and Afghanistan as part of the military expedition to secure oil for the West.
And I may add a slightly alternative point of view that maybe that's not done to deliberately obfuscate that whole speaking out. It may be being done to try to draw more attention to it by finding those search results in a search engine, because if you watch the movie, Captain America acts in the capacity of speaking out against the entire surveillance state and pointing guns at everybody in the world to try to stop terrorism. He actually speaks out against the war on terror in this movie, against the agency that is actually conducting it, which is S.H.I.E.L.D. Okay, so if you watch the film, you'll see what a blatant allegory that is, and I personally feel that it is done to highlight those people who are speaking out who were part of that project. I think when you do a search engine, yes, you'll get a lot of Captain America results there, but I think people who look through those results will also see that, yes, there is this whole other dynamic to that term. And the other reason I would say that they chose to do this is because the Winter Soldier is actually, that's something that was incorporated into those comics long before that operation ever took place.
Right. Right.
So I think it's synchro-mystic. There's synchro-mysticism also at work there, in that it's bringing this term to the attention of the public as well, in conjunction with the actual storyline of the movie and the allegory behind that storyline.
Right. I just wanted to put that term out there that was part of a project back in the mid to late 2000s that soldiers spoke out against the wars. Yes. They had the courage to speak out. And Mark's right. I take a breath here for me, Mark. Mark is asking for help, okay? And who cannot but help Mark? I mean, Mark's been out here alone on the battlefield doing our work for us. And now he's saying, hey, I need some help. And you don't have to be a great speaker. God knows I'm not. I do it. I speak what I can when I can and what I can. And as you know, my friends, I'm half coherent and half mumbling half the time. But I'm trying to speak the truth as I see it and know it. And thank you, Mark, once again. I've been accused of what was the term? Oh, gushing over Mark. Well, hey, if this is gushing, then then I'm a gusher. What can I say? But
there's mutual respect here, my friend. It has nothing to do with gushing over anybody. We have mutual respect for each other and the work that we are both doing. And the only thing I want to say regarding what you just said is I have not been alone in doing this. I am standing upon the shoulders of giants, as the saying goes, to do this work. Without the people who have come before me, who have helped to enlighten me, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing. So I'm certainly not alone. And but I understand the point that you're making there. And it's when we're actively involved in doing this for a long time, and there's so few of us involved in it, it feels like you need to tag out at some point, so to speak. Okay, and bring in some people who are fresh and ready to take this task on anew with more invigorated energy, because it can weigh on you, especially when you continue to do this, and it takes so much of your time. I mean, I can't stress how much time I have taken from my life and it does become tiring, saying the same thing over and over again. You try to do it. I tell people, you don't even have to put it out there into the world. Hit record on your computer, get a simple one-track audio editor, okay? Hit record, speak into your microphone, and keep speaking for 2 solid hours, and try to organize your ideas, okay, in a way that makes sense and communicates an idea effectively for 2 solid hours. See how easy it is. Find out. Do it yourself. You don't even have to put it out there. You may stumble over your words at first. You may, have pauses and things like that. But you'll just see how difficult that is to do. I mean, just to give a quick anecdote, I remember when Jay Parker first started his radio program, SRA Today, on the Blog Talk Network, he communicated to me after the first show. He said, wow, this is not as easy as I thought it was going to be. This is hard to sit here for 2 solid hours and talk to people. It's work. It's mental effort. It is psychological effort. And it's also some physical effort. You need to be seated in the same position doing this for hours at a clip, okay? It's not something that doesn't require significant effort, okay? But, again, there's many ways to do it. Again, to just briefly outline some of these things, you can paint, you could draw, you could sketch, you could draw comics, graphic novels, you could write you could make documentaries, you can make feature films, you can make allegorical fictional films, you can make music, allegorical music, poetry, okay? Tons of ways to do it. You can get involved in a direct capacity, direct teaching, presentations, okay? You could help in an ancillary capacity, make art for people that are making presentations, build documentaries for people who are speaking the truth. I'd love to do a film documentary at some point about natural law, okay? I'm working on a book, with the assistance of an editor. This person is tremendously helping in the task of assembling my thoughts into a book, okay? My words into an actual physical, organized, structured, edited book. I would love to work with video editors at some point in the future, video magicians, to make a documentary with lots of visual aids about the dynamic of natural law, put it out as a feature-length documentary. There's so many ways that we can do this. You can make a blog. You could get a blogspot show like Bob here has done. It's about getting involved in some capacity. Don't do nothing. Don't just say, I know, and that's it, that's the end, because it's not true. That's the beginning. Knowing is the beginning. You have to convert it back to doing. You did something to take that knowledge in. Now you're knowledgeable. Now you need to keep doing it to put that word back out there so that more people can get it like you got it. That's what the great work is to do. And if more of us do it, we will see a new world being born into existence that is based in the principles of natural law. And as a result, what will manifest here on the earth is truth, love, and freedom for all. That is the ultimate goal. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what creation wants for us. So, Bob, thank you so much for providing the opportunity to come onto your show and express this information. We persisted with willpower and persistence through the difficulties that we had last night on Walpurgisnacht 2014, and we put this information out there for all to see and understand anyway. That's what the great work is about, my friend. I thank you for being a part of that great work, and I want to tell everybody, if you want to hear more about the great work and about the occult and about the current state of humanity, go to my website, whatonearthishappening.com. Listen to the podcasts in order. That's where I recommend to people to start. Watch the videos. Your worldview will be changed. You will have so much more knowledge on the other side of that effort. It will be worth your time. It will be worth your attention. Invest those 2 spiritual currencies into doing some of that, and I guarantee you, you will be richer on the other side of having spent those spiritual currencies in the form of time and attention to take that information into yourself. And in doing so, you'll be in a better position to do the great work yourself. And that's what this is ultimately all about, getting involved and making a change happen by our will. So, Bob, thank you once again.
Thank you, Mark. Yes. And I just wanted to swing back around that earlier in the broadcast tonight, you brought up the teacher. Some have called him Yeshua, some have called him Jesus, but the people who are enraged, who spin their wheels to make sure that, oh man, I can prove that he wasn't a man, dude. And that's the most important thing, man. Like, I've triumphed over Jesus, man. And what they need to do is, like Mark was pointing out, doesn't matter if he was real or not. What is the story? And the story was that what the mysteries know about the figure of Jesus, who is the Son. Once again, back to alchemy. The sacred, the will is born. The Son,
right,
from the
alchemical gold.
Right. And also in the Kabbalah, Jesus represents Tiferet, the center, the balance, the
heart,
green chakra, opened up.
The generative principle. Yes.
And
that's why in the New Testament, that form of consciousness was referred to as the way, the truth, and the light. There's a specific reason that those symbols are used to describe that kind of consciousness. And I consider that a person who was definitively, actively involved in doing the great work well ahead of his time. Okay? Just a form of consciousness that was here before humanity was ready for it. But I feel now, not only are we ready for it, we can't afford to ignore it any longer, or there will be significant repercussions that come down to our species as a result of that continued ignorance. Now is the time, ladies and gentlemen. If not now, when? If not you, who? To you to get involved in the propagation of the great work and get on the great spiritual battlefield, and let's make this great change actually manifest.
Indeed, Mark. Jesus mihi omnia, the balance, the center, Tiferet, the generative principle of care, and the will thrust by it. Thank you so much, Mark. Have a wonderful evening, and have a wonderful evening, ladies and gentlemen. This has been Occult Empire. We will see you next time. Good night.